storage that goes along with that, and there's protection that goes along with that. So we want to make sure that that document is tracked from the time it comes to the counter all the way to the time it makes its way to archive. For documents that are not required to maintain a life expectancy, such as planning and zoning, typically it's 7 years. It was important not to send that out because scanning these large format documents are very expensive. And in order to save costs, we came up with a plan to do short-term storage, identify the documents, and when the useful life of the documents are expired in accordance with statute, this plan will define who and when the state's going to be notified for document destruction, and the documents will be destroyed according to state statute. We started developing some of the components of a succession plan that was recommended by the Government Strategies Group. And part of that was use of the SharePoint site in developing written procedures and workflows and further defining the roles and responsibilities of the individuals. So when I talk about a succession plan is if I decide to retire, who's going to take over? Do they know how the procedures are run? Do they know where the documents are stored? There was none of that when I came into play. And we struggled as a group to find out where everything was. So the idea is to create that plan so that when anyone in this office retires, whether it's a zoning officer or whether it's an inspector, everything is done in the same way. It's written, file cabinets are identified, the archiving plan is identified. Someone can walk into this office, read a plan, and know exactly where our documents are, all the locations they're stored, and what the end result of that document is. And we could do that with SharePoint. So SharePoint is a great tool that I've been learning about. It allows us, so you might know Jason, our IT, is moving the documents to an online platform. So with that, SharePoint gives us the ability to create sort of like an intranet among community development where we can share documents, access documents, create links to commonly used documents, all kinds of good stuff. So we're in the process of developing that, and that's going to go a long way to helping us further streamline this, especially considering that a lot of this information that's going to be coming in is coming in online. It gives us a better platform to manage all of that work. Our zoning officer now performs zoning inspections. So that was something that we started, went in as an ordinance revision. The township committee approved it. I felt that it was important because we were getting inundated, Sharon would know, with complaints about fences in the wrong area or buildings being built in the wrong areas. Why was that? Well, because we never did inspections before for zoning, and it was never required. So I wanted to bring that into community development. We now do that. It's an ordinance. Our zoning officer goes out to confirm compliance with the zoning regulations in the same way that we confirm compliance with construction for the Uniform Construction Code regulations. With respect to the capital requests, we really only have two, and it might be under the IT department. The large monitor screens for the computers, we did purchase some of them for the plan review. The inspectors have them. We want to carry that over to the rest of the office staff because they are looking at the plans to check for completeness. The large monitor format screens fit better with SDL and their capabilities. There's a large volume of information on these screens. It's not practical to look at that on smaller screens. The larger screens gives us an easier work space to work on for the computers. And the only other one I have for the capital request was the large format scanner printer. So this is something that we can have applicants pay for. What the large format scanner does is it gives us the ability to scan plans that do not come in electronically, that can be scanned electronically and attached to SDL. We would not have to send that out to be digitized because it would already be attached, digitized in SDL. And there is going to be that probably 3-year period or 4-year period before people start to fully accept online. And this will give us the ability to scan those plans. And we can charge individuals if we need to for that service. So that was my only other capital request. Rounding out my presentation really is just some of our future priorities. There's really just 3 of them right now. because we do have a lot going on. We want to develop a more organized, consistent approach to training. Part of the problem we had was we could not train because we didn't have the staff. Now that we're building the staff, thanks to the Township Committee and Sharon's recommendations, we would like to develop that plan, meaning closing the office for an hour or two, getting maybe over to Bellworks and doing more organized training so that we could do it office-wide rather than having someone come in and then I lose a person and then someone calls and I lose a person, and we can't train that way. So I want to get more into that. Creating a more direct and consistent dialogue with the TC through our liaison. I believe, Rocco, that's you. I haven't had the opportunity to meet you yet. I heard a lot of great things about you. To me, that is critical. The Township Committee needs to understand and know what we do as a community development. There's only so much that Sharon could remember for all the stuff that I bring to her. And it's important that there's a direct line of communication. Hey, Steve, I got complaints. What's going on with this? Or I have very important issues that I think the Township Committee should address. I think community development plays an absolutely critical role in the township, and we can make the town look great and make the town look terrible. And I want to make the town look great. And so I want to be on the same page with the Township Committee. Maybe you guys feel that there's something that's important that you want to address that is not even on my radar. And so I want to create that more consistent dialogue beyond just these annual meetings. And the only other thing I think we have not addressed really that was part of our major goal was the assumption of elevators. So along with housing and the other responsibilities, I think community development should assume elevator inspections. That's maybe toward the end of the year, something I want to talk more about. Again, quality of inspections and all that revenue we're losing. We could do that with a part-time inspector. That would be a positive net revenue for the township. And I think that would be something that's good for us. Only one other thing that I wanted to recommend consideration that the Township Committee can talk about, and maybe Mike, we could talk about in the future. We do not have a health department in Holmdel for obvious reasons. I know sometimes with COVID was an issue, but there's a lot of not directly related issues concerning UCC, but there are peripheral issues such as grease trap inspections and health inspections for businesses. We are going into businesses with fire prevention, and there are not health inspections for years on these properties. And I don't know how that happens, but there should be annual inspections on these properties. And I think by the township considering taking over that responsibility, not only could it be a huge revenue generator, again, it brings the quality of the inspections back. If you would see some of these businesses, especially restaurants, that haven't even had health inspections, or we got to wait for approvals for septic systems. It just delays our projects. And I think something like that to be considered in the future is something that should be on, I think, your radar. Unless you have any questions, that's all I have. Thank you.
No, Steve, this is Rocco. I think you weren't there when I was doing my tour of the building, but let's get a standing meeting going on, maybe bi-weekly,
Yeah,
you know, at the
great.
outset. And then if we want to push it to monthly, we can do that. So I'll send you a note and we'll get something on the calendar.
Excellent.
Thanks, Steve. You hit on a couple of good points. I'm in agreement on some of the things you said. It's just that we could chat offline, myself, you, and Committeeman Prevituto about some of the things you said. The latter part, there are some are a little tricky with our involvement with the County Board of Health, so we can chat offline and see what options are available for us.
Sure.
Cool. Anything else, guys, for Steve?
No, thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay, Steve, I believe next up is Public Works, and I believe Victor is sitting next to you.
Yes, he got locked out of his account. He had some problems getting on, so he's going to take my seat now that I kept it nice and warm for him. So
Thank you.
okay.
Hello, Victor.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, Victor.
The first thing to talk about is what did we do in 2021? Well, as you know, we had a very successful road program. We milled and paved 19 roads for a total of 4.13 miles. We demoed in-house the playground that was at Alaco Park, and a brand new, beautiful playground is there. I'm very proud of it. The residents seem to love it. We took down the old building on the access road to the Parkway. We didn't do that in-house, but we facilitated in-house. We got the quotes. We disconnected the water, the sewer, the communications. We were able to get all the utility companies in to do their disconnects, and the building came down very quickly so we could start at the firehouse right away. Over at the first aid squad, there was an issue with the first aid squad on Crawford's. There was an issue with the oil separator that's cemented into the concrete floor in the bays. We cut that out, we replaced that. So we're in compliance with everything there. Another project that we did this year using grant money, where we were able to replace all of the outside lighting at the municipal complex, including the outside parking lot at the community center with new LED lighting. And again, we use grant money for that, so that saved us a lot of money. It's going to reduce our electric bill substantially as well. Of course, navigating the department through another year of COVID was always a challenge, just dealing with who's coming in today, who's not, how long are they going to be gone for, hopefully keeping other people safe in the meantime and still, staying on task. We were able to add on to the police pole building, another bay for COVID supplies and everything else that's needed to be kept out of the weather in a climate controlled space. Also over at Alaco Park, we were able to put a new tiled surface in like we have over at Phillips Park and at Swim Club. So people love the basketball court over there. It's working out really well. The impound yard, the police impound yard, we brought a storage container in over there. Matt Minoski was able to get a couple of containers at a great price, him and Tom. We moved some gates around in-house because we have the talent to do that here. We had electric lighting put in the impound yard. So at night, when all the vehicles end up having to come in, it's usually at night, it'll be safer. Message boards were brought over there that the police have. Power was supplied inside the storage container where all their safety equipment is. That has electricity now. And then we created a ramp to get from the driveway into the container itself. Over at the Swanson house, over at Bayonet, the well wasn't working and we needed to upgrade that, get that well to work, and then bring 300 foot of water line over to the dog park so they have potable water over there. We did almost all of that in-house. And then another small project was we did 250 feet of split rail fence over at the Palma Farm over on Centerville. We've been working with various volunteer groups in town for memorial benches. Sure, I don't know this one, the daffodils, or the fencing around the daffodils. Yes. That went well. I think it's going to we'll have a lot of blooms this year, it looks like. Also working with the scouts and other groups for kiosks. There's a kiosk at the dog park. There's a kiosk at the Wack Trail now, and there's a kiosk at Bayonet by the Red Trail. All of this we did in addition to all of the things that we normally do daily to help keep Holmdel the wonderful place that it is to live, work, and play. We have some projects for this year that we're already starting. They started demoing the one bathroom on the second floor here. Once that is done, we're going to demo the bathrooms on the first floor, the men's room and the women's room. We're working on the 2022 road program right now, putting recommendations and costs to all those recommendations together to present to you guys to see where we're going to go with that. And again, with your help, we were able to get on the agenda the ordinance for road resurfacing. Mike, you've been a great help with that to help take the cost away from the taxpayers of Holmdel and put it on a utility company to restore everything the way it should be. That's about where I am with where we were and where we're going. I do have
glad to help you, Victor. Just to clarify for the public and the committee, that was the ordinance that was introduced this past Tuesday night, which Victor was instrumental in bringing to our attention. And in past years, the current ordinance, I think the obligation is only to pave to the center of the road in a lot of instances. Is that right, Victor? And then you have this kind of like patchwork appearance on the pavement?
Yeah, they would either do from the curb to the center. Yeah, they only had to do half of the road. So now if they dig up more than 50 linear feet of roadway, they have to replace that whole section of roadway, curb to curb or edge of pavement to edge of pavement. Thank you, everyone. I am looking for a few capital items this year. And I am finding, like I'm sure all of you are, getting items has become very, very difficult and very, very costly. An item that we ordered last year, we will get in February of 2023, I hope. So that's how far things are out. One thing that's nice is we are locking in to the pricing that we're getting from the suppliers, but the time frame is just killing us. You guys approved recently a boiler for DPW. We have 2 for the big building. We're able to keep one running, but they can't even give me a date when it's going to come in, never mind the install. It's when is the boiler going to come in? So I don't know what people are doing that don't have a functional boiler at their home or their business and they can't get the parts. It's just, it's very difficult, very difficult. I can't pontificate like Steve does so well, but we are asking for trucks basically and equipment to replace older things that we've had. Before we have to start putting $50,000, $60,000 into an engine, I'd rather replace it with something that's more reliable. When a snowstorm comes, we can take care of it. When it's time to pick up our leaves and brush, we can get out there right away and not have a breakdown. I mean, you're going to have minor stuff. We all have that with everything in our life, but the big stuff I try to avoid. You look at something, is it worth putting the money in, or is it worth making an investment for new? And it's always a difficult challenge, but that's what we all try to do every day to get the most for the tax dollars that we're given. That's about all I have. I was told to keep it short, and anything from you guys?
Yeah. Hi, Stephen. I'm sorry, Victor. Hi, Victor. It's DJ.
It's okay. It's happened my whole life.
I know you're sitting in his seat. That's why I got confused. So it's funny, a year ago when I was got on the committee, and I was the liaison for the Public Works, a couple of the other, some other people that I know in politics said to me, "Oh, wait, you're going to get inundated with emails from residents about, who's not getting their leaves picked up or who has this complaint and that complaint." And I can honestly say I've only gotten one email in over a year for something. So that's a testament to you and to the DPW. What a great job you guys do. And I just wanted to say thank you. And I would like to meet with you again just for this year and go over some of the things that you're looking to do and some of your initiatives. But we'll do that offline. And just wanted to thank you for doing a great job and keeping a well-oiled machine over there. Thank you. No pun intended.
My pleasure.
Victor, I have a question. This is Prakash. I echo what Committeeman Lucarelli said. You and your team have done a great job, specifically with all the issues we had in this winter in terms of snow plowing and so on. So the question residents always ask me is about road repaving. They like to see the list current. So I wanted to ask when you're going to post a revised list for 22 and 23. They like to see it 2 years out. So you think, please let, if you could share when you think you could have that revised list ready on the website.
I'll probably have the information to Sharon by the middle of next week for 2022.
And how about 23?
23, that'll take a little while longer. And you have to understand that the lists that I give out, they're a little bit in flux.
Yep.
Because again, depends on funding. It depends on what the bids come in at.
Yep.
And the conditions of the roads changed. This road may be 7 this year, but for some reason it went to a 4 next year. So I really have to move it up on the list. That we have a list, but it's not rock solid. We have to always reevaluate.
Yeah. It says so on the website as well, and residents understand, but they still like to see if their road is on the list or not. So it'd be helpful.
Right. Yeah, no problem. Like I said, I'll have the 2022 ready shortly, and within maybe a week or 10 days after that, I could get at least a list together. I don't know about costs. It's too far out with oil prices right now to get a fixed cost for the asphalt. but I can get a list of for 2023 for sure.
Great, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Anybody else for
I
Victor?
just want to reiterate that the road list, people oftentimes see their street on the list on the website, and then we don't get to it. And so residents do get upset, and we do get calls for that. I can't stress enough that the list is very much in flux because weather conditions can greatly change the status of a road. Costs, I mean, especially what we're seeing this year, what you can and can't get done drastically changes based on cost. So we do put it up at the request of the township committee, but I just can't say, if I say it once, I have to say it a million times. It's really a fluctuating list.
Yeah, so if we could underline the word, it's a tentative list, that'd be great, because people will see that it's subject to change, so.
And Victor, during the pandemic, people don't realize that you guys never stopped, right? You guys were, in every day doing the things you need to do to keep the town in the condition it's in, and you really did a great job. It's rare, but I do get feedback complimentary that some of the work that you guys do, and you and your team have done an amazing job in very challenging times, because we were in COVID testing and the whole situation we've gone through the last 2 years. So appreciate all your work, your effort, and you guys continue to keep it up and do a great job, because it's helping make the entire township committee look very positive in the residents' eyes, and a lot of it's because of the teamwork, and your team has really done an amazing job, year in, year out. So thank you.
You're very welcome, and thank you everyone for your support. Without that, we couldn't get anything done.
Cool. Thank you, Victor. Sharon, who's next?
We have Bob next. Recreation and the swim club.
Good morning, everyone.
Bob.
I just have a short 30-minute video that I'm going to play for everybody. Sharon, you have that ready to go?
I know we could talk all day about
I'll keep this short and sweet, especially when we get to the swim club, because you heard a lot of the swim club issues on Tuesday night. So when we get to the swim club part, it won't be as much. But I know Victor's not on here anymore, but a lot of what I'm able to do is because of the cooperation I get from Victor and DPW, as far as what goes on in the parks, what goes on in the facilities. One thing he always fails to mention and give his crew credit for is they maintain all the fields. Obviously that HYA and HFC and everybody uses during the course of the season. So our parks would not be as successful if we didn't have the cooperation we have from Victor as well, and all his guys. All right, we'll hit recreation first, and then we'll segue into swim. For 2021, we were able to get back to some in-person events. If you remember, going all the way back to April, we were still under capacity restrictions. So we started off with our socially distant egg hunt, where we were limited to 25 kids per group. Sometimes things are happy accidents. A lot of parents were very positive about that. So we're going to try to keep that not time schedule, but make the groups bigger for this year. It worked out much better, much safer, everything like that. We had our drive-through trick or treat again up at Bayonet Farm for year 2. We were able to get back to in-person Christmas tree and menorah lighting, which was very well attended. We assisted with the 9/11 ceremony. We had assisted with the administrator's office and the police department to get that off. We were able to get back to in-person Veterans Day and Memorial Day. Our seniors were able to get back in person, where we had our Valentine's Day luncheon, again, under capacity restrictions. We did the first one at Texas Roadhouse. That seems so long ago, but that was last February. And then we were able to have their summer barbecue in person, and as well as their Halloween party in person. So it was good to do that. We also had the mayor's community cleanup, again, socially distanced, again, back in March, April, where we were still under capacity restrictions. And we also held our first Bayonet Farm trail run this year, back in October. We had over 100 participants between the kids race and the main race. So that will continue again this year. We hope to continue to grow that. It's not going to get huge. We know there's capacity limits on it. So it's not going to be a 1,500, 2,000 person race. But we like to get it up to 200, 250 if we can to that point. It was great to see the residents and kids and everything come out and do that. As far as programs, we were able to get back in-person programs towards the end of the year. Our biggest, most successful program as we were able to get back in person is our senior workout program, where we have over 60 seniors registered for the senior workout program on Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings at the community center. So that's gone well. At the end of the year, we were able to bring a new karate program in with a resident who owns a karate studio in town. That class is the first session filled and went fine. The second session that we're running now is filled again. We're going to add additional classes moving forward in 2022. Summer camp, we were able to get that back in person. We moved that out of the schools into Cross Farm Park because of the state COVID guidelines we were under. Our numbers were down, but as DJ said with complaints, this is the first summer that I got very minimal complaints about our summer camp. It was amazing, and it might have been small numbers. It might have been. So we're going to keep the camp at Cross Farm, partly because Cross Farm is ours. We don't have to work around any Board of Education construction schedules. We don't have to work around any restrictions that the board may put on us. And Cross Farm allows us to be our park and spread out. And because as of now, we're still under 2021 guidelines for summer camps. We anticipate them changing from the state, but as of now, they could change. You know, camp starts June 27th. The state could change them on June 26th. So we have to prepare as if they're still in there. You know, Victor's touched on the fact that we were able to replace the playground at Alacco Park. That has been very popular. The mayor spoke about that Tuesday night at the meeting, how popular that playground has become at Alacco Park, as well as we were able to squeeze in a good weather window at the end of the year to get the tiles down and resurface the basketball court. We also replaced the fencing on the softball field, and we hope to be able to rehab the infield out there this year in 2022 to continue the improvements out at Alacco Park. And we also have on the schedule for, we encumbered it in 2021, but it'll be done in 2022 because like Victor said, with supply and production issues, the basketball court at Acton Park will be resurfaced as soon as the weather breaks in 2022. As I talked about for 2022, moving forward with recreation, we hope to get back to our in-person programming. One of the biggest things we were able to run our events. Unfortunately, our events are not revenue producing. So our revenue producing programs took a big hit in 2020 and 2021 because of COVID. So we're hoping as things start to settle down that we're able to get back into those programs. As I said, senior workouts running, karate's running. We have a Snapology program, which is a Lego-based program starting today in the Bellworks room. We're going to be working on senior art classes. So we're looking to get back into more in-person programs and hopefully revenue producing programs in 2022, as well as increasing our camp numbers back up to where they were before pre-pandemic numbers. So that's what we're hoping with that. One of the other things that was rolled into my department in early 2020, late 20 is the Municipal Alliance. Due to the retirement of the Alliance coordinator, due to COVID and learning curve, what I've learned is the county requires a lot of forms. There's a lot of paperwork that goes along with it. It took us a while to get a handle on it. The county's been great with us. Unfortunately, Deb Dow was our Alliance coordinator. Now Deb is retired, so we're kind of back to square one. So I'm sitting in the Alliance chair right now. And hopefully as we fill Deb's spot, we will turn that over to a new person in the office. So we're hoping to get the Alliance. I've been in contact with the high school, working with the other schools, try to get the Alliance back in. We're going to do a lot of community-based things in camp and things as far as the Alliance goes for 2022. We're going to be returning in 2022 our Daddy, Daughter, Mother, Son dances with new names. They will be returning the weekend of March 19th and 20th at Jacques to in person. Because that was our last big event we were able to run in 2020 in person was those dances. We got those in just under the deadline. The mayor's community cleanup is on the schedule. I'll get those dates out to everybody in the Easter egg hunt and everything else. We're hoping as we continue to move through 2022 that things will come back to more of a sense of normal and we'll be able to run things like that. One of the things I'm excited about is we are switching from our community pass registration system to Rec Desk. Which we should be more community, actually user-friendly on the public side. It's actually more user-friendly on the admin side too. So that we're going to roll out on March 1st for both rec and swim. So I think it'll be a better user experience for all our people that utilize online registration, considering that 95% of our registrations are done online. So we're excited about that. So does anybody have any questions on rec before we get into swim?
Hey, Bob, I know we spoke about this in the past. I think the programs you're running are great, especially the mother, son, daddy, daughter dances. I'm just a big proponent of using Holmdel businesses to run our events. So if I know cost is always an issue. If there's a way that we could do that, I think it would be greatly appreciated by the businesses that are in our town, as well as the.
We're very much into the problem we have with the is at the time that we were doing it and our time frame that we had to do it, they can't handle like the size of it, and we already had the date booked. So for hopefully moving forward in 2023, we can make that change. I would much rather have it as a Holmdel based business as anyway.
Yeah, no, that's my only tweak to what you're doing. I really
Yes,
like
absolutely.
stuff in Holmdel.
I second that, Bob. I think you're doing great work. You and your team are really contributing a lot to the town and giving a lot of people a lot of different interests, opportunities to participate in things.
Okay, now we'll switch gears to the pool since it's a warm day out and the weather's at least going to be warm for a couple days, so we can think of warm thoughts with the swim club. Last year, I would say it was a record number as far as family memberships go, since at least in my 9 years back here. I can just give you the numbers. In 2019, pre-pandemic, we had 456 families that joined the swim club. In 2020, there were, obviously with everything, there were 175 families. And in 2020, there were 545 families. So that was a huge jump. We were very happy and very pleasantly surprised. We did not anticipate that with everything going on. I will tell you, as I'm basing things for 2022, I'm basing it on it, and this is just to play it safe, an 8 to 10% decrease, because I don't know if it was a COVID bump, a stimulus bump, people use their stimulus money to join. So I just want to be prepared. I don't want to, we'd rather under promise and over deliver than over promise and under deliver. So we want to make sure we're prepared for that. The revenue this year was just shy of 600,000 for the first time again since I was here. The overall season was a success. We still had COVID protocols we had to follow based on the state of New Jersey. And again, we're still under those COVID protocols until things change. So we have to plan it based on the 2021 rules that we're under. Our swim team for the third consecutive year won their swim conference. We had 190 members of the swim team that participated. So that's the largest I've had probably since Kathy was in charge of the swim team, when numbers were over 200. So that was a great change. It was a big jump from 150 in 2019 to 190 in 2020. In 2021, we were able to bring back our DJ nights, our theme nights, our live music, our inflatables. We did Christmas in July, where we had the Grinch and Santa visit. So we were able to, it was a sense of more normalcy at the swim club this summer. Our staff was great. We've had a great staff retention over the last couple of years. We've had a good group, and a lot of my aquatics colleagues had staffing issues where they had to shorten their hours, close pools, different things like that. We were lucky we did not have to. I attribute a big portion of that to Allison in my office because of the personal touch that she gives to the staff up there. That's a big reason why I think we're retaining the staff. So for 2022, 2022 will be our 50th year of operation. The pool club opened in mid-July of 1972 as a soft opening. The first real official year was 1973. But Frank Zulik and I have arguments, because Frank's been there for 44 of the 50 years, that this should be the 50th year. So this will be our 50th year of operation. We hope to have some things to celebrate it, whether we have decade nights or different things like that. We're throwing a lot of things around right now. Our biggest challenge, both with camp and with the pool, is the rise in minimum wage. New Jersey minimum wage continues to go up each year. Right now, seasonal minimum wage is, if you're a seasonal employee, is $11.90, where standard minimum wage is $13. I've had this conversation with Bill and Sharon that we are basing our budget on the seasonal line item on $13 an hour to stay competitive in the marketplace, because we don't want to lose somebody that can go work at Wawa for $15 an hour or $13 an hour instead of sitting in the sun. So we're making that jump. It'll be a big jump from the $11.25 all these kids were making last year, but we need to stay competitive and make sure we have enough staff to keep the pool operational. You heard most of the issues with the swim club on Tuesday night during the RVE report. They're not as drastic as you made. Some of those things I will tell you, I didn't say while he was doing his presentation. Some of those things that Jim pointed out, we have rectified. Probably not to the level that they should be, but at least to make the club operational and safe. We will never run anything that's not, in a safe manner. We'll never put anybody in any jeopardy. So I'm not going to get into those issues now. And then hopefully registration, once we roll out Rec Desk, registration will open up in mid-March for the 2022 season. I'm not proposing any fee increases due to the fact of the jump. We try to increase fees every 2 to 3 years, and we made a big jump last year. So we don't want to increase because we are kind of at the top of the fee scale of all surrounding clubs. So that's the swim club in a nutshell. So if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, hi Bob, it's DJ. I do have one quick question. What is, and you, I'm trying to understand. I know you said our memberships were around, what was it, 500 last year?
That's families. That's not including, there's 254 seniors.
Okay.
So
I'm just trying to get an idea. What would be like, in your opinion, the maximum capacity for memberships, and what was the historic high of the memberships in the past?
Well, DJ, I can tell you when I worked here in the 90s, my first go round, our max, I believe we cut off at 750 families.
Okay. Okay.
So we're well below
Yeah.
that, but I think hopefully we're past the point of me standing on the corner of Crawford's Corner Road with a sign that says join the swim club.
No, I'm just trying to get an
In
idea.
my short costume.
Yeah,
So,
obviously with a more of a larger discussion we're going to have about the future of it. I just wanted to know what was the possible capacity, that we could add to what we're currently doing.
yeah, I mean, I believe our fire officials have told us that our capacity in individuals at the swim club is over 3,000.
Yeah, no, I meant memberships, but okay. So like,
Well, we have to look at the capacity, the capacity of the club. A lot of people have gotten with the lower numbers we had over the last few years, they felt like they had a private club. So some people don't like the numbers increasing, but we need the numbers to increase, especially the younger families, in order to keep the club viable. So as long as we need to keep attracting the younger families.
Yeah,
and it's nice. The swim club's nice. And you grew up here. Rocco grew up here. It's nice to see people coming back with their families to the swim club. I grew up coming to the swim club, so now I'm bringing my family to swim clubs. So we have a bunch of families who may still live in Holmdel, who may not live in Holmdel, but have brought their families back to the swim club to get the same experience they did.
Sure. All right, thanks,
Yeah.
Bob.
Hey, Bob, on that note, and I can tell you when I moved back to town, it's the first thing we did was sign up for the swim club first few years when our kids were really young. On that note, and I feel like, as you know, I think you do a fabulous job. I'm just curious as to what your perspective is. Is there anything preventing us from achieving those sort of mid-90s highs again of 750 families? Is there competitive pressure from beach clubs, right? I'm just, what are your thoughts there? Who are we competing against to try to drive that membership?
Traditionally, we've competed locally with Middletown and Hazlitt. The advantage we have in Middletown and Hazlitt was they both ran camps at their pools. They had outside private camps that ran their pools and monopolized the pool time and the grounds. Middletown still has a private camp. I've just recently heard that Hazlitt is evicting their private camp. I don't know how true that is, but I've heard through the grapevine that they may not be having Camp Coconuts there this year, which may have people gravitate back to Hazlitt who may have come to us because they didn't like the camp.
Okay.
We're always competing with people. We have a lot of people in town that have private pools in their backyards, but still come to the swim club for the social part of it. They don't want all these people in their backyard. I don't know where we're going to get to that. We're a 50-year-old club with the same infrastructure, and hopefully some of the improvements that were discussed the other night, if we can implement them over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, will help, increase that membership as well.
So I would just like to add to that and add my thanks, Bob, to you and all your staff and to Allison for a phenomenal season the last 2 years at the swim club. I do think I am more optimistic than you about registration, but remember, I'm also the one that said to raise the prices the most, and it didn't hurt us. Because what I'm seeing now is a significant turnover in town. Again, these things go in cycles. And in my neighborhood, there's little ones and babies, left and right. So So that's a good sign because that's a
Yeah,
right
that's what-
audience for us to
Absolutely.
capture. Along those lines, I know last year you instituted a marketing outreach effort, which we had not done much of at all. And I'd like to know if we're continuing that, because I think that's the way that we grow the membership. Believe it or not, there are people, I wrote an article once calling the swim club Holmdel's hidden gem, because there
Yes,
are actually people that have no clue about all it has to offer.
I do plan on doing the postcards. I think I sent out somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't remember the number. We sent out postcards to Hazlitt, Middletown, and Colts Neck. And then I'm going to switch it up a little and go Manawan, Old Bridge. And I'll probably send it to, well, Holmdel, we send it out within the newsletter, so people get it in their mailbox anyway. That's why we didn't send a separate one to Holmdel, because
Okay.
it's being mailed to them anyway. So yeah, we will continue that outreach. Unfortunately, most of my time is I have to rebuild the back end of this software and input everything back in. So my time has been taken up with that right now, but we have plenty of time to get that out. The company we use turns it around pretty quickly and gets it out in the mail quicker than I anticipated last year. So
Fabulous. Thank you.
Bob, I'd like to echo what was said. You and your team have done a great job. Just one question I have for you, maybe with Bill as well, is to see what's the maximum we can bond using our revenues. Basically understanding whatever capital improvement that we want to do, could it be self-funding based on the revenues? That would be fabulous, because then we could do it and not impact the tax revenues.
that's definitely a Bill question.
We can't hear you, Bill.
Is Bill trying to speak, Sean?
I believe he's trying to speak, but we can't seem to hear him.
So Prakash, Bill can get us the numbers later, but the answer to that
that's
question
fine.
is
That's
yes, we can do that. That's how the swim club was initially funded, was a bond against the club itself.
Now, there's some considerations we might want to take, and when Bill figures out his microphone when we talk later, he can clarify it more. Because of our municipal bond rating, it might make sense to bond as part of a general obligation bond to get a lower interest rate.
I understand. It could be, yeah, understand. Absolutely. It could be internal accounting that we want to keep track of to say that it's self-funding, while it could be part of a general obligations fund. Absolutely.
Right, exactly. But we've got a couple more presentations, and in the meantime, maybe somebody can help Bill with his microphone. Brian or Allison, if you're watching, would be helpful. Any other questions?
No, Bob, thank you.
No, thank you all.
On that, next up, we had first Dave, but we were going to ask Fire to go first, but I don't see you, Dave. Are you there?
I see first aid on, right?
I see first aid on. No, there was a scheduling issue, so we were trying to switch them around. I know Dave is watching, but I don't see him online. So we will, in the interest of time, move along with first aid. So Chris, and I think you want some other people, which I will promote to panelist as well. And Chris, you should be able to share your screen. I know you do have a PowerPoint, so.
All right, let's see. Let me just pull this up real quick. If everybody can hear me okay, I just want to thank everybody for taking this time to listen to this presentation. We just created a couple slides just to kind of put everything down for you to kind of visualize what our request is. So my name is Chris Trechette. I'm the current chief for Holmdel First Aid Squad. I'm joined by a couple other volunteers. I am a volunteer myself. So just to get into it, Holmdel First Aid Squad selected timeline. Back in 1969, we started operating out of a one-car garage. And then in 1989, due to the growth of the township and expanding number of first aid squad calls, there was a necessity to build an additional or a new building back in 1989, and that's where the current first aid squad currently sits at 20 Crawfords Corner Road, and is split into two sides, one for first aid and the other side for the fire department. In 2001, on the other side of the north end of the town, 11 Centerville Road was opened. Half the side is the first aid squad and the other half is the current Holmdel Fire Department. In 2021, some of the things that I want to kind of point out was we answered 1,350 calls about, which equates to about 3 to 4 calls every single day, completely staffed by volunteer manpower. We finally completed a 10-year equipment upgrade that my squad and myself, we put into place 10 years ago. I became a line officer in 2012, and we have been consistently upgrading our equipment through the help of the township, its residents, and just completely planning that out. In 2022, I like to say that we have 62 active members, all of which are volunteers, and we have a very robust cadet program, which feeds into our EMT volunteers for the township. So our current occupational needs and gaps. So the need right now is a modernized and expanded EMS headquarters. We have significant gaps that need to be addressed. Some of the gaps, we have a training room that only fits a current 24 people, and we have 60 plus members. Meetings are very difficult for us to accomplish, as well as hands-on training. Our training does take 240 hours to become an EMT. And that is all volunteer, as well as 24 CEUs that you're supposed to average per year for continuing education. We offer a lot of training to our volunteers. Additional locker room facilities. We currently operate with just a single toilet per gender for the entire building. There are no sleeping quarters, so we don't have sleeping abilities for standbys, for overnight standbys, for overnight response. There's no kitchen facilities, and there is no workplace environment, which I will get into at a later time in this presentation. So I have a vision. There is a retention, recruitment, and revitalization. We want to retain the volunteers that we currently have. We want to encourage high functioning workplace experience that will make the current volunteers want to be at the building, want to be able to answer first aid calls. And the way that we do this is to continue providing high quality EMS using our training and the Holmdel standard, which is providing the absolute best care using the best equipment. I want to go on a recruitment drive. I want to achieve a quantifiable recruitment drive that encourages new volunteers. I want to boast that we have a high quality facility. I want to be able to provide a flex workspace for individuals that might work from home. I want to tap into that new resource that COVID has an unintended consequence. I want to use it to our advantage. Locker room facilities, kitchen and food prep, sleeping quarters. These are all things that I can use to get people to come to the building and volunteer for our township. And this will lead to a revitalization and refreshment of our current volunteers, our current members, continuing building our family, to reduce the burden of high top responders, which will enhance response times, quicker response times when people are at the building. You would have a daytime response that's where people are staying and potentially working from the building. So my idea, my vision is a volunteer common area that's going to be provided in this workspace to promote an environment that encourages volunteers who work from home to use our facilities in order to better serve their community. We already have people that want to do this. I have college students that are virtual. I have work from home residents that would be able to be at our building and volunteer for the township. I think this is an untapped resource right now that Holmdel has a unique position to encourage volunteerism. And so the capital requests. So pretty much what it comes down to is Holmdel Fire Department, which is on the southern end of the building. They're moving from 20 Crawford's Corner Road to the brand new centrally located firehouse sometime this quarter, I hope. And the ask is to renovate the unoccupied space to combine it with the current EMS facility at 20 Crawford's Corner. And this would provide a centrally located EMS headquarters to encourage volunteer presence at the building. And finally, we've been going through architectural renderings back and forth with the architect, and my entire thing from the beginning is to minimize the cost. I am a taxpayer as well. I understand that that trying to keep this cost down is important to the taxpayers as well as the township committee. So how did I do that? So we're trying to reduce the construction costs by collaborating with the architect during the review of the site plan. So what does that mean? We're going to try to renovate with the existing building footprint, we are going to keep the footprint within the existing building footprint and utilize the existing building infrastructure so it could reduce the costs, boilers and electrical panels. They could try to stay the same so that the cost is minimized. And so what else we did was we prioritized the needs and the wants. And this is an absolute need for the township as well as the volunteers, because this could affect and will affect every single resident in Holmdel and those who occupy and come here to work. So I would open this up if there are any questions for myself. I also have volunteers on here that can also assist if there's anything that I can assist you with.
Is there any questions for Chris and team?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. It's DJ. I do have.
I'll just say, I'm sorry, DJ, I don't want to cut you off. Chris, if you can close your presentation so we can see everybody, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There we go. Thank you. And thank you, Chief, for your presentation. I just have a couple questions. The first question I have is, Sharon, what was already approved from last year in the capital? Wasn't some of this already approved in that?
Yeah, well,
just refresh my memory.
I have that ready for last year. And over the past 2 years, we've been setting aside $300,000 per year for this project.
Okay, thank you. Because and Chris, I just want you to, for the record, I'm 100% in support of everything that you're requesting and the needs for Holmdel to have everything that you've asked for is definitely legitimate, and I think we're all going to be in support of that. So I don't want any misunderstanding this year after this meeting. The only question I do have for you, Chief, is that I was under the impression, where I was told, that there were sleeping quarters in that building upstairs, and I just wanted to know, is that not true, or are they just not? Are they not usable at this time?
No, that is not true. We do not have sleeping quarters at the first aid building, at the first aid side. We for the past 35 years, for the 17 that I've been a volunteer, every time I've stayed at the building, I would make out a cot and sleep on the cot for overnight response when there's inclement weather, or try to sleep on the couch with, 5 other people that are in the building with us.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
And DJ, Anthony snores, so a good sleeping might be good.
Thank you, Serena.
Hi, Chris. Yeah. Chris, this is Prakash. I have to say that the volunteer first aid squad under your leadership has done a fantastic job. I consistently get great reviews from our residents. Please keep up the good work, and we need to do whatever we can to allow you to do such a great job. So I'm all in favor of the capital improvement projects for first aid, as I have been for the last 3 years. The one question I have, I know, following up on Committeeman Lucarelli's question, I know we allocated $300,000. Well, it'd be good to know what's the incremental above and beyond what we already allocated. Okay, at some point. If you don't have it right now, that's fine.
I think Sharon could provide you with maybe an updated scope of this project, at a later point. But what I was trying to accomplish today was to just provide you with with the need and the reasons why we need this.
And we're going to talk about that later on today when we talk about capital. There's a little nuance to everything, so we'll get there.
And then, I'm sorry, Kathy, just one last thing. Where are we with the architectural drawings? Where does that stand? Did that already start, that process?
Yes, the architects have started. They've created a preliminary design. The first aid squad members have been very integral in that process. There's been a lot of iterations of it. There's been a lot of cuts and moves and changes. So we've got the preliminary design there. Now we have to go into the next stage.
When do we anticipate having that like finalized?
The design?
Or,
The
yeah,
design.
like-
The design is essentially finalized. The architect is currently, what we asked them to do is provide us with updated cost estimates, broken down in 2 phases, things that need to be fully funded in order for the construction to happen, and things that could maybe be funded in a future year, like, because it's going to take a year for the construction to actually go through.
When do we anticipate having that?
Any moment now, and we have a pretty.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
That we'll talk about too.
I just have one quick thing, and it's actually, I think, good timing because I think fire is up next. One of the things I would like to see is more increased cooperation between fire and first aid. And since construction is delayed in this environment we're in, and let's be real, even if we wiggled our nose tomorrow, it may take 1.5 years or even 2 years to do anything. What can we do? And this, you don't need to answer this now, but I'd like you and the fire chief to discuss how you can share their new facilities to meet your training needs as well as your overnight needs. So, maybe overnight we don't need, I don't know how many beds are in the firehouse, but let me pick a number. Say there's 4, maybe we don't need 4 firemen. Maybe we need 3 firemen and a first aid person or whatever. And for training, can we use their training room? They're literally right across the street. So the extent to which we can work together and collaborate in the short term could allow you to move quicker on some of your recruitment efforts and plans. So no need to answer that now, but hoping that can be something you guys can work on offline.
Anybody else? Chris, thank you for the presentation, and I think some of your ideas and insights are great. I think this renovation building is going to be significant, not only for the retention, but hopefully the addition of new volunteers. Listen, I get ping from residents all the time. There's a lot of activity you guys have. You guys had tremendous amount of activity the last 2 years with COVID. I am, as you know, intimately aware of everything you guys have done, and you guys continue to do a great job. So thank you for sharing that with us today, and we'll continue to work together to make sure this is the first aid resources needed to take care of our residents. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Sharon, is fire ready?
Yeah, Dave is on. So
Cool.
for everyone to know, Dave is our fire training officer, and he prepares the budget and training and does a lot with our fire department. So thanks for joining, Dave.
Good morning. Good to see everybody. Can you hear me okay? I'm on a Bluetooth headset.
You're good.
Yeah, you're good, Dave. Thank you.
Great. Anywhere in particular you want to start, Sharon, or?
Nope, it's your show.
All right. So just want to kind of recap a couple of things. I came on board with the township with regard to the fire department in 2016. And I know we have, some newer committee people that may not have a full grasp on why I was brought in and kind of the purpose behind it. So, there was a lot that happened with the fire company number 1. Our response capability was not all that great. There were a couple of ideas that were tried by previous leadership at fire company number 2, primarily the former fire chiefs there, and they left abruptly. It left a void. I was approached by the township to help on the administrative end of things and trying to fill some of that void in a couple of specific areas: training, compliance, and budgeting. And since that time, we've done a great job, mostly on the part of the volunteers, but we've done a great job in filling those voids in the compliance factor with our records, reporting, policies that were non-existent before, standard operating guidelines that didn't exist before that now do, and of course, enhancing our training capabilities so that we could provide a better service to the taxpayers, which is ultimately our goal. I try to push a very, customer service oriented aspect with these guys, and they're buying in, so that's a good thing. Budgeting wise, we were severely underfunded, as I'm sure some of you who've been around for a while can attest to. We were operating a fire department for a town our size on less than $50,000 a year when I first started, which is amazing that we got by on it. But my primary goal when it came to the budget was to demonstrate fiscal responsibility. I think I preached that. If the guys remember anything about what we talk about, it's fiscal responsibility. I want to make sure that we're spending the taxpayers' dollars the proper way and using it in conjunction with the funds they have available through their fundraising efforts to better improve operations. And it's had a direct impact on enhancing our response. We put in a PPE replacement program to make sure that they had the equipment to protect themselves when they went out. And one of the biggest obstacles that we had was maintaining the fleet. And as you're well aware, we took delivery of a new engine last year, and we're in the build process of replacing the ladder truck. And then finally, leadership was a huge void that was left behind when the dust sort of settled. And we addressed that in two ways. A ton of training. As the training person on behalf of the township training officer, we've delivered a ton of training. I usually teach one class a month to them. They conduct their own drills as well. But we became a state certified, it's called an eligible organization with Division of Fire Safety. But at any rate, it allows me as a state certified level 2 instructor to deliver state certified programs on behalf of our department, get the guys CEUs, improve that sort of thing, take the curriculum that I've wrote in other places, apply it here. And it's certainly filled some of that void. And the second way is lots of meetings. I spend a considerable amount of my time with the officers, just working through problems, coming up with new ideas, putting policies in place, and trying to empower them. I certainly don't try to take their roles away from them. They're the leaders. They're the ones that are responding to the calls. I try to stay in the background and not shine a light on myself and let them kind of run the show. So I just do what they need in the background. So we're making huge strides. I'm very happy with where we're at. 2021, I have to give a lot of credit to Eric Hernando. I don't have to sit here and sing his praises to you. You all know what a valuable asset he is to us. Eric was my training officer back in 2003 when I came on to the police department, and I was his training officer in 2005 when he became a fireman. So we have a great relationship, and I really, his recruiting capability, his retention capability, his leadership capability is it's paying off for us. So last year, the firehouse was the big project. We spent a lot of money and a lot of change orders, and Sharon has really led the way there with Eric and Nick Rybakowski. So we hope to have that grand opening soon. As you know, we took delivery of our brand new engine 7.7, which was set to replace engine 7.5. We still have 7.5 because we're waiting for engine 7.8 to come back from repair. We had that unfortunate accident on off of Hillcrest there with the car on fire. So we did have a damaged fire truck, but that should be coming back soon. We did a ton of training again in 2021. We did the best that we could in 2020, COVID, that sort of thing. Our budget, I know Bill, I owe Bill an invoice or two to charge against last year. I apologize for that, but it's a little tough with the supply chain issues and taking delivery of these things. So bear with me as we work through that. We did also take delivery of a new fire chief's vehicle. You know, we do have 2 fire chiefs per township ordinance in the town. The fire company owns one of the fire chief vehicles, which is on its last legs, but we didn't have a second vehicle. Luckily, Eric, being the OEM coordinator, was able to kind of multi-purpose his OEM truck to assist with the fire department. But we did take delivery of a new command vehicle at the end of 2021, which we had to send back because they sent us the wrong truck. So never ends. So hopefully that new truck will be here soon. We have all the money encumbered to get it upfitted. So as soon as we get it, we'll get it on the road quickly. With regard to the 2022 capital request, there are a couple of big items. I'm sure they jump off the page at you. The number 1 priority is the item for Scba, self-contained breathing apparatus, in excess of $350,000. You'll see on your sheets, I'm sure. For those of you that don't know what that is the air packs that the firefighters wear anytime we enter an IDLH environment. We cannot do our jobs without the self-contained breathing apparatus. In the last 40 years, it has remained the most significant technological advancement in firefighting. It's just completely impossible to do the job without it. The air packs that the guys are currently wearing were purchased through a grant, I want to say in 2008 or 2009. Unfortunately, it was under the previous regime, and we don't have a lot of documentation on it other than a purchase order from 2009. I believe it was a reimbursement grant. The spec on them was subpar. We spent, I want to say, in excess of $6,000 last year in maintaining them. Every year, the repair, the money that we have to spend to keep them in service is getting a little bit more. We're spending a few hundred to a few $1,000s every year to keep them in service. They're over 10 years old at this point. But my main concern with the Scba is the safety of our firefighters. These things are, the packs that the previous regime bought are gigantic. That's the only way that I can, it's the best word that I could use to describe it. They have this emergency bailout system that's integrated into the pack to help the firefighters bail out from an upper floor if they find themselves in a flashover or something like that. That was a hot button topic in the fire service back in 2008, 2007. But these things have caused nothing but problems. We've had to have them repaired several times. Almost everyone in the fire company is not certified to use the bailout system, so it doesn't really serve a purpose anymore at this point. And with the age of these packs, I'm just, it's a safety issue for me. But the firefighters really need a better piece of equipment. So it's time to replace those. We've talked about it a couple of times. We did submit it in our budget last year for replacement, but I think our timeline has to be moved up, and it's something we really need to consider for this year. So Barbara Kovaleski and I are looking into alternative means of funding in the form of grants. There are grants out there. Whether or not we can get them for Scba is yet to be determined, but it's time to spend money on that. We haven't spent money on Scba in Holmdel in probably over 20 years. So in 2022, we also moved up the request to purchase another fire command vehicle, another SUV. It's my position that we should own all of the apparatus. They're insured by us. That gives us essentially control over that apparatus. I think it's in the township's best interest to have control over that apparatus. And the fire company has been, the town has been helping to maintain the SUV that's currently in service. But the fire company, when they bought the SUV that's in service right now, it's actually in one of our members' names. It's one of the in one of the volunteers' names, and we should really avoid doing that. I don't think it's necessary to do that. So, unfortunately, that truck is it's pretty beat up. We had Glenn over at the DPW take a look at it, and he said not to put any more money into it. So it's good money after bad at this point. So that's another big ticket item for 2022 with regard to capital. Take a quick look at my sheet real quick. Yeah, everything else in capital is typically just a reoccurring expense, replacing personal protective equipment. We do need a couple of extra mobile radios. Those of you that were here when the police department did the radio system, we tried to really sharpen our pencils with the initial cost and then put the onus on the individual departments if they needed to upgrade or buy additional equipment. So there's a request for some money in there for more mobile radios. In terms of operating expenses, about 50,000 of it is going to go to subscriptions, maintenance, and that sort of thing, contractual maintenance, programs that we use, marketing and recruitment services, dispatch services, about $10,000 for repairs, about $5,000 in supplies, a ton of equipment that we're still upgrading. We're moving towards the ability to integrate with the police department to put together a rope rescue team. I'm heading up the rope rescue team on the police end of things. The chief got us some funds in 2021 to buy some of that equipment. Most of that equipment is coming in for the police department. I bought very similar equipment for the fire department, and I'm going to cross-train both agencies. I think the skier with the broken leg behind headquarters last year was kind of the nail in the coffin for that, and we really had to put ourselves in a better position to deal with that. Holmdel's topography is challenging, to say the least. And then I have a couple of odds and ends for you. Just in 2022, as it stands as of 2022, there are 49 or 50 members on Holmdel Fire Company 2's roster. Not all of them are firefighters. Some of them are administrative members or fire police, but you have about 40 firefighters in total that are available for responding at different times. Obviously, the idea is to have a core of them who are available most of the time. So our response has been pretty good. 2021, there were 485 calls for service. They had 4 bona fide, what you would report as structure fires within the borders of town. And then last year, because of the progress that we've made, some of their mutual aid partners have actually started requesting them to come and help fight their fires as well, Keyport, Hazlet, that sort of thing. And they recruited 8 new members in 2021. It's a little less than what we recruited the year before, but that's still a really good number. Not everybody lives in town, but as you know, our ordinance allows us to recruit from people outside of town who live within 3 miles of any border. So we're continuing to do that. That's all I have for you. Is that less than 10 minutes?
David, this is Rocco and Preventino. I just have a quick question for you,
Yes, sir.
just so I'm clear. On the SCBAs, how many do you need? And was that 350,000 the total cost, or is that per? I'm just not familiar with the cost they put.
Yes, sir. Sharon, can I share my screen?
Yes, you can.
And the other question, David, while you're pulling that up,
Yep.
not to bombard you, I just want to make sure, again, I understand the dynamics. You mentioned recruitment was lower than it had been prior year. What's the sort of expected turnover or retirement, I guess, of existing volunteers over the next couple of years? Have you taken a look at that, or do you have thoughts on that? Are we going to lose 15 people and we've got to step up? You know, we've got to double down on recruitment efforts, or?
Yeah, it's very difficult to forecast that. If you're recruiting under the age of 30, and a lot of cases, that's what we're doing. We're recruiting, we have a good Explorer post, which is the kids that are under the age of 18. When they turn, you cannot be a certified firefighter in New Jersey until you turn 18. Like EMTs, they can start doing it when they're younger, but you can't be a firefighter until you're 18. So we have a good cadet program. They turn 18, they go to the fire academy, they become a fully trained firefighter, and then it's really a crapshoot at that point. If they wind up going to college, you lose them for a good amount of the year. And then when they are done with college, if you hold on to them while they're in college, when college is over, they typically can't afford to live in town on a starting salary of whatever field they're going into. So that's really a crapshoot. The prime age to recruit for, I would say, is like that 30 to 40-year-old range, where the person is already established. They live in town, they have kids, maybe the kids are getting a little bit older and they have a little bit more time to volunteer. But we are spending a good amount of money with a service called first arriving, they are all through, they're nationwide, and their whole focus is on recruitment and retention of volunteers. They do all of the work for you. They diagnose all of the national trends. They provide all the statistics to you, but I think the best thing that they do is they customize a marketing plan for you. So, and I mean a full range of multimedia, YouTube, you know, they'll send a film crew down here and really put together some professional packages, in addition to flyers, mailers, that sort of thing. So this will be our first year using them. We're kind of testing the waters with them. I didn't want to commit too much money to it at first, but if it pays off, then it's probably something that we'll look to do maybe every year, every other year, something like that.
And this is just a thought, because I'm familiar with, you know, sort of acquisition on this in this type of way. If they haven't presented you with it, if we can think about what the almost cost per acquisition is, meaning how much does it cost to actually get a recruit, and someone that's going to be, you know, part of the fire force, it might help us forecast.
About $5,000.
5,000 per. Okay, so that'll help us understand if we need to step up our recruitment efforts, how much incremental budget you're going to need in the future. That's where I was going with it.
Yeah, sure. On paper, the cost is $5,000. With the ability to recycle gear and that sort of thing, we can keep the cost down. We try and keep the gear for at least 10 years. Once it reaches 10 years, we usually just get rid of it because it's beyond the NFPA recommended standard. We partner with an agency up in the Bronx that tests the gear, sanitizes the gear every year. They make the repairs, that sort of thing. So we are able to keep the cost down with the new firefighters. We send them to the academy with the old stuff, let them beat it up, that sort of thing. But at some point, we do have to outfit them. So, you know, I don't want to say it's a shell game, but it's you're moving parts around to make sure that we're keeping the costs down.
No, look, it sounds like you're doing all. I mean, I'm impressed with all the work you're doing. I just want to make sure that as we think to the future, we're funding you appropriately, especially if we need to expand the force and the whole thing. So that's where my head's going.
Yeah, sure. Appreciate it. This is just quickly to just show you what the quote looks like for, this is from New Jersey Fire Equipment. This is a vendor that we use a lot. They're an approved Scott vendor. Scott is the manufacturer that manufactures the SCBAs that we use. This is a newer generation. X3 is the model number of this. And you can see we're looking to purchase 40 of them at a cost of over $8,000 a piece. That's where the bulk of the cost is going to come in here. And then you have to pay for the cylinders to equip the SCBA. They're giving us, one cylinder per pack at a charge of $58,000 on this quote, but they're also going to give us 40 spares at no cost. So they are helping us out. We are a good customer of theirs. There are a couple of different options that we discussed with Valentones and Sharon in terms of how to pay for it. They do offer a finance program through another company. I have it here, but I think they'll have a better solution if we do that. Community leasing partners, they had two options for leasing this equipment or financing it over a period of 3, 4, 5, or 7 years to keep the annual cost down. And again, if you're not familiar with it, let me share my screen one more time here. Oops, I almost left the meeting. Just pushed the wrong button. All right, so this is essentially what we're talking about here. This is the SCBA. If you're not familiar with it, the air packs that have to go on, they're certified for interior structural fire attack, but they're also certified for chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear. So essentially, this is the highest level of respiratory protection you can possibly get in our industry. And again, there is no firefighting without using this equipment. It's huge to do it, to have it.
David, this is
Yes, sir.
Prakash. Hi.
Morning, sir.
Morning. First, I have to say you've been fantastic in the last 3 years. You've identified key issues, gaps, and I really appreciate all the work you did in beefing up our fire department. Also, thanks to you, thanks to the chief, thanks to the administrator and the mayor, that we've come a long way in the last 3 years. We've got a firehouse, we've got one truck, we're going to get another truck. So hopefully we will get to a point where we have not many issues related to our fire response. So you know where I'm going with this now.
I know exactly where you're going with it.
My favorite topic,
Yep.
which is the preparing, even if we don't get it, but preparing for the ISO rating. I know you and I have spoken. You've been kind enough to say we'll look into what we can do. Any updates on what you can share in terms of getting us to a better ISO rating? And it's important for the residents to understand why I'm pressing on this ISO rating concept. First of all, it's response time, that's key. Secondly, it's also an implicit tax cut to the residents. So I'm keen on that from that angle. I know there may be issues to get to that point this year, but I'd like to hear from you on where we can go and how we can address that.
Yeah, the elephant in the room really is coverage. Building the firehouse on Crawford's Corner Road was a necessity. We've never had a fire headquarters. We've never had adequate training facility. We've never had an adequate firehouse absent, Holmdel Fire Company 1 when they were part of the picture, but that was a privately owned facility. So we've never had a facility. So it's huge for us to have that, but it doesn't address the issue of coverage on the south end of town in terms of a facility down there for apparatus to respond from. Realistically, if we did mapping in terms of our geography, you might be able to argue that a fourth building would give you the appropriate overlapping coverage. I'm not saying that's 100% factual. We would have to look at the NFPA standard to see where those overlap. But the way that the town is, as you know, it's quite narrow, and from north to south, there are challenges in terms of how you navigate the town. There's no way to get from Palmer and Middle Road directly to 520 and Main Street. You have to take a series of different streets to do that and change your angle and direction of travel. So the geography is certainly a challenge for us. But outside of adding another building and increasing our response time to those neighborhoods down there, I don't think that there's much that we can do to address the ISO rating as it is right now. That's the biggest thing. There are a couple of minor things. Communications was one of the things on there that we can improve with. We spent close to $3 million on doing that, but that was a town-wide project. So we might increase the ISO rating a little bit there. Training is certainly improved, but I don't think to the degree that it would move the needle. That's not, they don't look at it the way that I look at it. I'm trying to make our guys safe. I'm trying to improve our ability to stop fires early and foster a succession here for the volunteers, for leadership to continue 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, grooming the future of this fire department. So there are still some other things that we have to do. We addressed a lot of the immediate issues in terms of the fleet. We can't put fires out if we can't get to the scene, and there's no good getting to the scene if the pump doesn't move the water and that sort of thing. So we have positioned our current staff to be able to do that. We've bolstered our numbers. We continue to recruit, but we still have some other challenges ahead of us to move that ISO rating. So I think the best course of action is to continue to do that until they come knocking and ask for us to do it, unless we're poised to request them to come in before it's time for them to come back. So we still have a little ways to go.
Yep. I know you're doing everything you can to get to that point. So a couple of ideas we brainstormed a few weeks ago, that was to look at requesting, partnering with neighboring fire stations in other towns to provide coverage in South Holmdel. One of the things I want to also throw it out there is to see if we could even do a pay per incident kind of situation where we could get a better response from our neighboring towns if we're willing to pay them a nominal amount. That way we could increase the coverage, which means we are protecting lives and at the same time getting to the ISO rating as well.
So we have done that in the past here in Holmdel. There was a period of maybe close to 20 years where we were paying Hazlitt and Middletown at different times to provide automatic mutual aid to the northern part of the town. We find ourselves in kind of the complete opposite situation now, where we need coverage on the south side of town. And I don't want to say that there's no mutual aid people to partner with down there. We just have a lot less options down on the south side of town. The response of some of those companies or departments is not better than our response would be. However, I was able to kind of bridge a divide between our fire department and some of our mutual aid partners, where the relationship had kind of gone sour the last couple of years. So I know that our fire chief is talking with the biggest player in the county, which is right next door to us. So I don't want to speak for him, but I know that they're trying their best to mend those fences. And I see that working out pretty good. So again, I don't want to speak for him. I'll let the fire chief run his fire department. But if that works out, then mutual aid will improve significantly.
For Southern Holmdel?
What's that?
For Southern Holmdel as well?
Specifically for Southern Holmdel, yeah.
Yeah. And if you think we could increase the amount we pay, and that could help as well, I'd like to know. I'd like to know all ideas, if you have whatever ideas you have.
Yeah, I offered a considerable amount of money, unofficially, to some mutual aid partners the year before last, and they turned me down. So I don't see that as a solution. They're willing to come here for free, so I don't think we should give the money away.
Yeah, okay.
I'd rather spend it on things we need.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, David.
No problem.
Thanks for a great work. Good job as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, David, it's DJ Lucarelli. Thanks
Yes,
for
sir.
everything. It's definitely disappointing, though, to hear after spending millions of dollars on a firehouse and millions of dollars on fire trucks that we're still actually having a conversation about covering South Holmdel. So that's not on you, but it's just disappointing to hear. The one question I did have for you is, could you just clarify what you said about the need for another SUV? Because I thought you said we purchased one, but the wrong one came in, so that one's still coming, right? And that
Correct.
Chief Hernando is using his OEM SUV as an SUV for the fire department, right? So are you saying we need another one? But could you just explain that to me a little bit so I
Sure.
understand?
Yep. The fire company owns the white SUV that Chief Rabkowski, Deputy Chief Rabkowski drives. You've probably seen it, on the roads and at the events and that sort of thing. That vehicle is owned by the fire company. They've maintained it for its entire life and paid for it and that sort of thing. And we were hoping to replace it 2 or 3 years from now through the capital budget, but it's on its last leg.
Okay.
It's not going to survive much longer. So I moved it up to the 2022 request.
Okay. Thank you.
And I just want to jump in. It's important to understand that there's a difference between improved fire coverage and our ability to respond better than we were before and the ISO rating. So yes, the township has spent millions of dollars, and as a result, our fire department is better equipped. There's vehicles that they didn't have before. There's a new firehouse, which will probably help with recruitment. So just because it might not change the ISO rating, undoubtedly, these investments have improved the fire response of the fire department and their ability to respond. Additionally, it's really important to note that without these investments, our ISO rating likely would have dropped even more.
Correct.
So just because the ISO is a technical, they look at numbers, they don't look at the whole picture as much. They have like certain, categories that they put things in. So while that's important, more important if you want to save structures and save lives is making sure that you have a department that's equipped and trained and available. And we've made great strides with the capital investment that the township has done for the past.
That had to be the priority first. As I said before, moving the needle of ISO is it's different.
Yeah, I know. I completely understand that. And Sharon, if you were directing that at me, I understood that. You didn't have to say that, but I understand.
It wasn't directed at you. It was directed at everybody to understand,
I understand
public and everybody.
Yep, we've come a long way. Before 3 years prior to me getting on the committee, there were 5 houses that burned to the ground. That's not the case now. The response times have improved greatly, tremendously, thanks to David and the chief, and we've come a long way. And again, I concur that protecting life should be paramount. Secondary should be the ISO.
Anybody else from the committee? So, David, I think you're doing a great job with the leadership over at the fire company. It's really, the foundation is what we set out to build on. I think the administrator said it well. We're investing in the infrastructure to give you guys the tools and resources you needed. I think that the equipment you put on your list for recommended are significant and important. Being at a live working fire is a scary environment for me, right? And I've been to a few in this town, unfortunately. And these guys are risking their lives and they're volunteers. Let me say it again, they're risking their lives and they're volunteers. So we need to give them every tool and training necessary so they can do their jobs and return home safely. We also have, Mishra and I have also built a very good relationship with Naval Weapons Station Earl. We just recently had an engagement with them this week. And why is that important? Because they are a military fire company that sits in Colts Neck that, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, responds to every structure fire we have in town. And sometimes they're one of the first to arrive at a fire. So we have been doing a great job with Dave and Eric's leadership in kind of creating that environment so our residents are as safe as possible. And these are things that go on behind the scenes that we don't publicize, but want to bring it out in a meeting like this so people understand that there's a lot that goes in. It's not just have a meeting once a year, you get a 20-minute update from Dave and team, and then nothing else happens. These guys put a lot of time and effort in to making sure that the fire company is prepared and has the tools they need to get their job done. And it can't thank you guys enough, because there's a lot of hours that go in every single day, every single week to make sure that this happens. And to say, I'd like to make sure you guys know it doesn't go unrecognized, and it's appreciated because this has been a long time coming to get to this point where I'm very proud to say that the fire company is a great asset and getting better.
Thank you.
Sharon, who is next?
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks,
Have a great
Dave.
day, everyone. You're welcome.
Good job, David. Thank you.
Thank
We
you,
have
sir.
Captain
Thank you,
Alaco, soon to be acting Chief Alaco for Police Department, which is our last presentation of the day. Department presentation for the day.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I want to try to keep this as brief as possible. I do have Lieutenant Ackerson here with me, and Chief Miniszewski is also sitting in. First thing I just want to go over is I want to bring up some of the highlights and accomplishments from 2021. We did, as you well know, we did receive the department accreditation after many years through the New Jersey State Chiefs Association. And like I mentioned the other night to the township committee, this accreditation isn't something that it's a one-time program. It's something we have to keep working on. We have to be recertified in July of 2024, and we've already started the process. And it does take a lot of hours for our officers that we have that work on it. It's myself, and I had two other officers that were assisting with this project that put a lot of time into getting the department accredited. In 2021, we had one replacement officer that was hired. He was hired off the civil service list, but did not have to attend the police academy because he was already trained as a SLEO 2 for Long Branch when we brought him on. Currently, we have hired 3 others right now that are 2 are on the road. They didn't have to attend the police academy. One had put himself through the police academy as an alternate route, and the other had graduated as a SLEO 2. The other was a police officer already with Middlesex County College, and the third we're waiting to get her into the academy. February 22nd she starts. Unfortunately, she was unable to attend Monmouth County, so we had to get her in Mercer County. She couldn't attend Monmouth County due to she had come down with COVID at the time when that academy started. Those people are all replacements for our current retirees. Continuing for 2022, we want to continue to increase our social media presence. Facebook, currently we have over 8,000 followers. Twitter, we have over 1,700 followers. Instagram, we have over 1,700 followers. So we have increased each year, and we want to continue to increase the information that we put out on the websites, adding traffic safety messages, crime prevention tips, officer awards, our new lost dog policy that we have, in addition to continuing release information to the additional media outlets. Neighborhood Watch, we actually, it had gotten tough to meet during this whole COVID the last couple of years, but we have put on a couple new groups. We had a meeting last night with Neighborhood Watch, and we're looking to increase our membership and get in any neighborhoods that we don't currently have any active members. As for our vehicles, this has been very difficult for us. Although the Township Committee has approved us in the last 2 years of getting additional vehicles, we had 5 new vehicles that we ordered in 2020 that we just got in recently, and we're just finally finishing up on those 2020 cars on getting them equipped and getting them on the road. The 5 vehicles that we ordered last year, I've been on the phone with our vendor. They're telling me that it's still going to be 60 to 90 days before we even get delivery of those vehicles. And then after we get the delivery of the vehicles, then we have to send them out to have them equipped with our police equipment. So that's going to take time. And again, for 2022, we're going to request 5 additional vehicles. Of the vehicles that the problem that we're having, and it's causing us issues, is currently we have 3 vehicles that have been removed from the fleet. They had extremely high mileage. There were just too many costly repairs that had to be made. So Glenn from DPW decided that we had to take them out of our fleet. Those 3 cars are gone. They've been gone for some time now. It's been over 6 months we've had 3 cars out of the fleet. And besides those, we have 8 cars that have 90,000 plus miles on them. And then that's not to count a few of the cars that are getting up into the 70s and 80,000 miles. And the reason that is, with having these cars out of the fleet, we have our guys going in, they're reusing a lot of cars and putting high mileage on them. So it's causing us problems. I think once we get these next 5 cars in and get them equipped, it's going to be a plus, but we are still going to need the additional cars this year. The department implemented our body worn camera program. All officers assigned to patrol and supervisors are all wearing body worn cameras now. We did implement and completed the radio project in 2021. All departments went live in February. It's been going well. We did get the CRG mapping for the town hall and Bayonet, all the areas at Bayonet, which gives us the ability to, if we have an incident in any of these places, we can have an outlay of the area and inform our officers of where the issues are, and helps us out to know where our people are with the use of the CRG mapping. We installed the new evidence lockers and refrigeration units that in our evidence room. We've been wanting to do this for quite a few years. We were able to get it accomplished last year, and we needed to have that done for accreditation purposes. Also, that's been done. All the prisoner holding cells have been renovated. That's now complete. We're currently working on getting all the cells painted, and we want to get the floors redone in there. Although we corrected a number of issues, the department still has to apply for exemptions that are not correctable. The cells have to be, the Department of Corrections inspect our cells every year, and the date of the building dating back to when it was built, late 70s, early 80s, there's still walkways, wall ceilings aren't up to the DOC codes, but we do get exemptions from that. We had the third bay added to the department garage for the storage of all our PPE. That was completed. And it is also, it's a climate control area. Our goals for 2022, we want to complete the e-ticketing project. By completing that project, that's going to help not only us, but the court. The tickets that are written by the officers will not have to be, we won't have to take additional time and of a person to actually write down, enter those tickets and then forward them over to the court. That's all done, by computer. It's all computerized. We'd like to see an additional IT technician added to the department. We have, the township has one IT person that handles the needs of the township, but there's an awful lot between the township and our police department with all these different programs that we have, and we really could use an additional IT person. We touched on the CRG mapping. We'd like to just continue on and try to get a few of the additional other companies added on to the CRG mapping. We'll be working on that, talking with different organizations like the hospital and a few others. As for the building and grounds, we have our locker room that we want to continue on to get that redone this year. We've started it. We're working with the architect, but that's one of our main issues that we'd like to see get completed this year. As for revenue generators or shared services, just want to go over a few with you. We have a school resource officer for one of our officers assigned to the schools. He's there for 10 months out of the year. Does a fantastic job, and he bounces around from the different schools, the high school, the SAT school, and the grade schools. He not only takes care of issues that come up in those schools, but he does a bunch of different programs in those schools. The Monmouth County Emergency Response Team, that's MOSER. We had 2 officers on that team. We originally had 3 officers. Then with retirements, now we're down to no officers. We want to at least put 1 officer back on the MOSER county team this year. So we're looking to have that spot filled. We have 2 officers on the rapid deployment force, and those officers are trained. It's a county shared service between all departments. If a large incident, a riot was to come out or something, we would send our guys that are trained with other departments' officers, and they go out and they assist in whatever the issue is. We have 1 K9 handler currently. We're going to maintain that officer. He does a bunch of different programs that he puts on and in the schools also. We have several of our officers that are instructors at the Monmouth County Police Academy in firearms, a bunch of different training, the car operations. There's a number of officers that maintain the certification to be trainers out there. We have 2 officers that are drug recognition officers, and we have 1 patrol officer that is a member of the county serious collision analysis response team. That's a SCART team for anyone that doesn't know. If there's a serious accident or a fatal accident, members of this team get called in. It doesn't necessarily have to be our town. They'll go out to surrounding towns. And there's a number of towns through the county that has officers that are trained as traffic safety officers that are trained as SCART officers. We have our active shooter training program, and we have instructors that instruct with the active shooter training, and they not only instruct officers from our town, they instruct officers from other towns. On an annual basis, we have to assign someone to work undercover with the county strike force. We haven't had anybody during COVID. We have to look toward putting an officer out with the county this year in 2022. Internet crimes against children. This officer is a shared service also. We have a detective that's trained with the internet. It's called ICAC is the program. And we have 1 officer that's trained, and he does assist with the county in some of their investigations. Office of Emergency Management, OEM, we have 1 officer in the police department that's also our OEM coordinator. And we have, as you know, you just heard from 1 officer that's assigned as the fire department training officer. And we just recently had one of our command staff members that is trained now as an active bystander for law enforcement. He's a trainer. The program is called ABLE. It's training for officers that are bystanders where they may be involved in an incident with a fellow officer. And if that officer starts getting, needs to be pulled back or removed or whatever, the training for the other officers is to assist with this, so they don't have, a use of force incident isn't taken too far. It's protection for the other officers. It's a great program. It just started, and this officer trains other officers at the county. Some of our revenue generators, shared services, alarm permit ordinance and enforcement, and our vehicle impounds and storage yard. The adjustments, like I explained, we have 3 new hires right now. We just learned that we have another officer that's going to be retiring in April. So we're going to need to replace that officer also. So we're starting to look, as soon as we know for sure that he's definitely going to retire, we're going to look to put another officer on, and then we'd like to add an additional officer. I'll get into that in a couple minutes to the total of our officers. The main capital, there's a couple of very important capital priorities this year, but the main one that we still want to make sure that we get accomplished this year is our locker room renovation. And moving forward, we want to make sure that we improve our archive storage. We're working on that right now. We've removed it out of the old storage area that we have, but we have to go through and see what we can get rid of or what we have to keep. And that's going to take time and man hours to go through all our existing files. And the other important issue that we have to start looking forward to in the future is the replacement of our CAD system. And I'll explain that more when we just go over the capital, and Lieutenant Ackerson is going to go over that. That's all I have with that. As for manpower, with the recent hires, when the retirements of the chief and Officer Struble become effective in March, we'll be back at 40. We'll be at 43 officers and what we had in 2021. As soon as the chief has retired, we're going to have to meet and discuss filling the vacant command and supervisor spots. That's going to have to be done at that point. In 2021, we had the chief, the captain, 4 lieutenants, 9 sergeants, and 28 patrolmen. Of the 9 sergeants, 6 are assigned to patrol. We have 1 sergeant that is assigned to training, policy, and accreditation. We have 1 assigned to the detective bureau, and we have 1 sergeant assigned as a detective juvenile sergeant. Of the 28 patrolmen, 2 are assigned to the detective bureau, 2 are assigned to traffic safety. We have 1 that's the SRO in the schools, and 1 assists support services. And that leaves the 22 patrol officers assigned to patrol, along with the 6 sergeants. Like I said, I asked for 1 additional officer in 2022, bringing our total up to 44. We're trying to go from having a 4-man minimum on shifts to 5-man minimum. Now that also includes our sergeant with our patrol officers, and adding an additional officer is going to also assist, because we know we're going to have an additional amount of time that has to go into, and we're going to need an officer to handle the review of the body-worn camera program that we have, and the use of force reviews that have to be done for all of our for any of the requests that we get, OPA requests and the discovery requests. And I know we've recently had just 1 case, and we constantly have discovery requests, but 1 case where we had 4 officers involved in, it took up to like 6 hours to review and redact any information from that body-worn camera footage. We have 5 full-time, currently we have 5 full-time dispatchers and 5 part-time dispatchers. We want to get to 6 full-time dispatchers and 4 part-timers. Why we have 5 right now is we bring a part-time dispatcher on, train them, and then move them over to a full-time dispatcher. But the turnover, we have a very high turnover in dispatchers. So it seems like in the last couple of years, we've been constantly training our part-timers. We have 2 Special 2 officers that work the court, and they also assist with records and evidence and expungements. We have 3 SLEO 1 officers. 2 of those SLEO 1 officers are dispatchers. They can assist with court also if one of the SLEO 2s are unavailable. The other SLEO 1 officer currently works on doing all our background investigation for gun permits. We have 7 SLEO 3s and are requesting another to be added. The SLEO 3s are the officers that are the part-time officers that work in the schools. We want to get back to our the number 8 part-timers to cover the school hours. And like I said, we have currently 7. We're asking for an additional to be put on. We have 4 clerical non-police full-time employees, and making a total of 67 people total for the department. That's all I have with that. I just want to go into our actual budget. Sharon, has that?
No, this isn't about the budget. This was just about some highlights and some capital requests.
Okay. Then I'll just go into capital right now. 2022, and I'll ask Jeff just to come over for our capital budget. The projects that we're looking to work on for 2022 would be our Axon fleet replace, and this is a replacement of all our MVRs. That's the video cameras that are in our vehicles. We currently have old cameras that are in our vehicles that were bought years ago, and we want to switch out and put new cameras in the vehicles that match and are from the same company that we have our body-worn cameras that the officers wear. Jeff, do you have anything additional that you can?
If anybody has any questions, I can get further into it. I'm not sure if you need additional information at this time, but if you do, I can answer questions about it.
The replacement cost that we got on that is $200,000 to replace the cameras in our cars. And additional, we would like to change the detective bureau. We have a video camera and the detectives for them when they have to take do their interviews. We have an old camera system there also. We could switch that over to the Axon, the company that does our body-worn cameras too, have everything all on one system. The cost of that, the price that we got on that is $22,000. Traffic safety, they have a number of different signs, road closure signs that we need to replace. There's some high intensity stop signs that we can put out in storms that actually have beacons that blink on there. Matt Minosky has put together a number of these items, and we're looking to replace them in this capital budget, in 2022's budget. We're asking for 2 additional SUVs in the capital budget. That's down here. That goes along with the 5 cars for each year. We had 2 years ago in the 2020 budget, we had asked for and got 2 Tahoes as supervisor vehicles. We went to, in 2021, we ordered 2 Explorers, and they're hybrid. They're the first hybrid cars that we're trying. We're looking to get 2 additional Ford Explorers in the 2022 budget. We always have, there's additional offices. We've taken care of a number of our offices here, but we're looking to replace some chairs. in the report writing room, in the detective bureau that hasn't been changed. So we're asking for additional $6,000 for the chair replacement in a number of offices. In our secure area of headquarters, where the police officers bring prisoners in, that area has been the room. We've redone the rooms. We have all new furniture in those rooms. The only thing that hasn't been done, and it's still original in this building, is the flooring in there. It's still the old square tile. A lot of it's popping up. We need to have that redone. We got a quote to redo the back flooring, and it's in the entire secure area. One office was done. We have 3 offices in the rear hallway that has to be done. The quote for that is $10,000 on that. Our firearms unit is asking for addition. They want to replace 6 handguns or get 6 new handguns. That would cover some of the new officers we have coming on and having a couple spares. We do a lot of training with firearms, and if a gun goes down, we have to have a spare to be able to give to replace the officer's handgun. We're looking to get 2 additional portable radios this year. The cost for each radio is $8,000. That's $16,000. But we do need to have the additional radios. One is an additional add-on, and another would be as a spare. We've asked for $10,000 for repairs and painting in our garage. We put the extra bay on the garage out back, but there's still a number of issues that have to be taken care of in there, and there's wooden storage units that were built for storing all the PPE, but it has to be painted. So that we've asked for $10,000 to make those repairs. The locker room renovation, we talked about that last year. We've started, but we're asking for an additional $200,000 just to cover the cost of the locker room. I don't know that the amount that we had in there last year is enough to cover that. So that's in here, and that's one of the main items that we're looking to get done. On this capital sheet, you'll see evidence cabinets and refrigerator, $5,000. We need some additional evidence cabinets and a refrigeration unit inside the evidence vault. We have an old refrigerator in there, but we have to replace that one inside the actual evidence vault. That's one of the things that we're working on currently, is our evidence room, and going through some of the old evidence that we can get rid of and cleaning that room up. But we do need to upgrade our shelving that we have in there. And lastly, on capital that we added in here, and when we originally met, we didn't have a price on, but the Spillman system that we want to go to for our new CAD system that we're looking to move toward in the future. The pricing that we did get on that it's a big number. It's $600,000. That's the quote that they're giving us on that. So I did add that in here. And that's where we're at with the capital budget. I don't know if you have any questions about any of these items.
Chief, this is Prakash.
Yes.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate you on being named the acting chief. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Second, I'd like to thank our officers under the leadership of Chief Medisevsky. They've done a tremendous job over the last 2 years, especially during the pandemic. So wanted to thank them all for their excellent service. It's great to see letters from residents saying how their appreciation of our officers. That's great to see them. Quick question for you. I know the hot topic right now is thefts and burglary. I know you're doing a lot behind the scenes that you can't really divulge. But what I would like to ask is if the Holmdel Police can start communicating with our residents on a more frequent basis, either voicemails, emails, whatever the right approach is, that'd be helpful to help our residents understand that they're being, that we're working. So that'll be helpful.
Yes, we agree 100%. We've tried to get as much information as we can out. We are looking to definitely get more information out about some of the issues that tie our hands with these investigations. But we also started last night. We had our first neighborhood watch meeting, and we had a lengthy session that we went into and actually did a rundown with the people that were in attendance about the car burglaries, car thefts. So it was a start.
Great, thank you.
In the Citizens Police Academy.
Hi, Captain. It's DJ Lucarelli. Again, congratulations on your promotion. And thank you for your presentation. The only thing I would like to add is in the very beginning of your presentation, you did speak about the social media and things like that. So I do think it's important. And the only thing I would say is, or suggest, is that maybe you can appoint someone as like a community ambassador or whatever you want to call it. I think it is super important to communicate and get out any type of messages with the public. And I think that's I know it's part of your initiatives for this year, but I do think it is very important, and I would love to see putting some more effort into communicating and getting messages out with the community for whatever topics or issues that we're having in the town. I think that's very, really important. So thank you for everything again.
Yep, thank you. We're definitely looking into any additional ways that we can get information out. And the other thing that we've done that we think will be very beneficial too is having this Citizens Academy. It's starting next week and it's going to run for 10 weeks. And part of that is so that we can get the people that are taking part in that academy, they will be able to understand, and one of the nights will be taught basically on investigations, and a big part of that will be the thefts and the burglaries, and they'll get a better understanding, and they'll also be able to bring that back and explain that to their friends, neighbors, family, and all. So I think that's really beneficial too.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Captain. Sharon, does that wrap up our presentations?
That does wrap up the presentations for now.
Good.
Okay.
Right on schedule, right, Sharon?
Not quite. And in that vein, I am going to fly through what I had prepared for you guys so that we can get some additional conversation and feedback from the TC. Yeah, sorry. Share screen. Okay, so I had done some highlights and accomplishments that we've done this year. You guys, oops, not coming through. One sec. A lot has been covered already. So like I said, I'm going to fly through. I did want to note a couple of things. We were successful doing everything we did. The tax rate remained flat. Thanks to finance and the efforts of our professionals and the Office of Finance, we maintained our AAA rating with Moody's. We were able to permanently finance almost $16 million in debt with a net interest cost of 1.69%, which is incredibly low. We received grants in the six-figure range, notably the grant for the bike path and the Holmdel Swim Club. We were able to capitalize on procurement methods so that we could get better rates on some of our items, and that was especially helpful in quite a challenging year. Things were like our gas pump, janitorial service, copiers. It's not the sexy things, but it actually saved us a lot of money. So props to Barbara, our purchasing agent, on that, and the team of people that she worked with. These are some public safety accomplishments, and I think they've already been covered by all of the departments well better than I can. Some other not sexy, and IT wasn't here. We did some integrated cloud backup, so we have some backup off-site. A lot of towns this year were faced with ransomware, and we were very proactive in that. We deployed Office 365 and some security features, upgraded our Wi-Fi at Town Hall. We launched the SDL system, which Steve talked about. We completed road paving. We had a lot of public engagements and public events. We advocated for improved library hours, and we increased it by 12 hours per week. We completed the dog park, which we've heard about, Alaco Park improvements. Our vaccine assistance program, we helped seniors and people with homebound get vaccines. We also helped high schoolers going into college. We got a lot of calls saying, my high schooler, this is back when nobody could get a vaccine. My high schooler is going to college and they can't get a vaccine. Can you help? So we created a program for that. We had a very successful rate on test program, that one of the best in the state, I believe. And I think Bob covered some of the rec highlights. The swim team got the championship again, and we just had really improved communication. We started our Instagram. We got almost 1,000 followers in just 1 year. We've been retweeted by national organizations. We've had a lot of engagement on Facebook. Again, I'm flying through this. I could talk about a lot of these more. We also had a lot of fun and did a number of public events when we finally could come back together. I would go through a whole list of them, but again, in the interest of time, I'm not going to do that. So some of the non-capital goals that we've met, we've discussed, the entire team have come up with for this year. The stormwater management study, the TC approved that study at the end of January, so we're getting ready to kick that off, and hopefully that will give us a better understanding of how we can control some of these stormwater issues and flooding issues that we see throughout the town. We want to continue the enhanced public engagement and communication throughout the township. We want to clarify special event process for both internally and externally, increase training and development of our employees. Some of that has been touched on already today. The township has received a significant amount of money through the American Rescue Plan Act. So the township committee really needs to start thinking about how they want to expend those funds. There are very limited ways that those funds can be used. And so making sure that they're used as efficiently and effectively as possible to help the greatest number of Holmdel residents as possible. We're currently in the process of exploring both cost savings and green energy, both for the township buildings, so it can cut the township costs, and also for our residents. We're part of a regional group of towns that are trying to find savings for residents and also increase the use of green energy. Hopefully that will get accomplished this year. We're monitoring the rates. We have discussed implementing, for lack of a better word, a park ranger program to help both maintain our parks and monitor the parks to make sure that they're being properly used. Oftentimes we'll have private entities come using our parks for their own benefit. And we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. We want to implement electronic bidding, which in the long run will probably help us reduce some costs. It will broaden our bid options, and so hopefully get more competitive bids on that, and we're in the process of doing that. We want to finalize our paperless purchasing, which we've started to do last year, implement two-factor, multi-factor authentication to make sure that we continue to be very secure and we don't face some of those issues that our neighboring towns have. We're updating the operations plan, particularly as it relates to COVID, and pandemic response was something that a lot of towns have to kind of go back to the drawing board now. We want to continue to recruit volunteers, particularly with first aid, fire, and also our CERT team. We have a lot of CERT members who are kind of either aging out or choosing to leave the program, and we want to make sure we recruit them back. The CERT team was instrumental in helping us through the pandemic. For instance, they were our core group for the vaccine accommodation program and other COVID-related issues. Police department touched on e-ticketing. We want to increase our senior events and offerings, keeping COVID in mind. It's not completely gone, so making sure that we make those adjustments as needed. Increase programming for art, STEAM now, and fitness in the recreation department. And then we also want to earn the New Jersey's We Value Our Veterans Award. We've been working on this since last year, and I think this year with some of the plans that we have in place, we'll be able to earn that award. It's a award that comes down from the state level. Those are some of the broad. Again, I apologize for running through them so quickly, but I wanted to give an opportunity for you, the TC members, to discuss any other non-capital goals and initiatives that you'd like to see in the coming year that we should also start implementing. So I'm going to open it up to members of the TC as it relates to that for right now. I'm going to stop sharing so we can see everybody, and then we'll jump back into talking about some capital.
Sharon, I have a
Sorry
couple
for
of.
going so quickly.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no. Sharon, I actually have a couple of things that I've sort of begun exploratory work on my own. The one would be, as other towns do, providing free transport for seniors to and from local medical appointments, and just understanding the full breadth of the operational and cost implications there, and seeing if it's something we can action. And then the other is, and I'm talking to neighboring towns about this, sort of what Marlboro's done, their Shop Marlboro initiative, a similar Shop Holmdel initiative, understanding the pros and cons of that, cost and infrastructure, if they exist, implications, and potential for success on those. I'm getting a much better rounded understanding of what it's going to take. And I think those are two things to me that are near and dear to my heart, to try to provide some level of tax relief, even if it's not a home run to the taxpayers, and to certainly, see if we can do a little bit more and a little bit better for our seniors there too, from a service perspective.
Sounds good. Any other feedback?
Yes, hi, Sharon. I'll go. I don't have anything major, but the one thing that it would have to be a longer conversation, and I don't know if this goes into capital, but the one thing that I would love to see improved in town is like community relations, with like finding a conduit between the town and the residents, right? So with as far as more community events, almost like dedicating someone, an employee of town hall, and it could be someone that I think it's only a part-time thing, but maybe adding a stipend into a salary, and then making someone in town hall who is more like a public relations director, right? Someone who can, speak with some, like the business owners at Bell Works or other business owners in the town, and coordinate events and coordinate promotions that they're having with our citizens, with like the restaurants that are in Bell Works, or events that are going on, and someone who can kind of like just maybe coordinate and be more of a, I don't know what you want to call it, but more of like a public relations person. And again, that's something that I don't think we're going to talk about or solve today, but that was something that I was thinking, where we could find someone who, an additional $5,000 or $10,000 a year, and then has this as actually a duty, part of their job description. So that's something that I was thinking, just to increase community relations with the town and the citizens of the town. So that's something that I look forward to maybe speaking with the other TC members and you down the road. But it's not a big number, but it would be an additional salary for someone.
DJ, that actually, I'm wondering if, I do want to stand up and I do want to get support, and I'll seek to earn the support of the TC on a heritage committee, to make sure that all the diverse voices in town are properly represented. I'm wondering if this is tangential to that, or in some way where we can not only promote and produce sort of PR and efforts around PR events, but also events related to our communities within town to sort of expose and provide that type of insight. So maybe there's something connected there. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe there is. And again, obviously, with the exception of what we've already discussed with the swim club as far as capital improvements, there's really nothing else that I had, Sharon. But that was like an initiative that I thought could be very beneficial to our citizens, the community down the road.
I see Kathy is poking her hand up, her virtual hand up. And I want to say that we have done that. That was some of the things that I was mentioning. First, the TC approved the deputy clerk/public information officer position at the last meeting, which is responsible for doing that. We the special event process that I talked about, that is something that we've been working toward, making sure that there's a process for those public events that you were discussing. So we're well on our way to doing that. And it's something that's going to be a work in process. Progress that continuously is going to have to merge and change.
Thank you.
Yep. Kathy?
Yep. So just a couple things. Yes, I am thrilled that Brian's moving into his new position as a public information officer and a deputy clerk. And I think that will be very helpful. And I'm glad we approved that. I have a few more random ideas, and I just want to throw them out there. I really think we should engage the community much more on the issue of the car thefts, as I said at the meeting the other night. And this is my idea, just an idea I'm putting out there. I think we should start a lock it or lose it campaign, where we, really put a lot of public information out and encourage people. And I know the police department has done some of this, but I think it needs to come from us as well, and get people to lock their cars in their garages. Because, I recall years back, you never saw Holmdel cars out in driveways and on the streets, and now there are cars everywhere. And so along those lines, I'd like to hold the Great Holmdel Garage Sale and Clean Out Your Garage Day, where we have maybe a town-wide garage sale, and we also tee that up with a large item drop-off and try to literally get people to clean out their garages so they can put their cars back in them and lock everything up and secure things. So that's one idea. My other idea is along the lines of what Rocco suggested. So I was glad to hear his support for something like this. I really would like to see us take on rehabilitating the African-American cemetery. I think there is more to our history and heritage in telling that story. And it is in a significant state of disrepair beyond what an Eagle Scout can do. It's going to take some more concerted effort on the part of the town. And I would like to see us look into doing something on that front. So those are my two kind of non-capital community initiatives.
And I just want to note, we have people taking notes on all of these comments that you're making. So just Prakash.
Yeah. Hi. Thanks, Sharon. So first of all, this doesn't get a lot of airtime, and I want to emphasize and make sure that the residents are aware of this. Our CFO, Bill, and our administrator, Sharon, single-handedly did a fantastic job of reducing the tax impact to our residents. I want to point that out again. Single-handedly reduced the impact of taxes on our residents, future taxes, by converting the short-term debt, $16 million, right in the nick of time. Because you saw the CPI report today, we're going to see 4 increases in our rates. They were able to convert all our short-term debt to permanent debt, and with fantastic interest rates. And I just want to say kudos to the two of them for doing a fantastic job, being extremely cautious and serving a community really well in this regard. So I want to applaud both of you, please, for your excellent effort in doing this. So that's number one. Number two, I know Committeeman Improveduto pointed to the Heritage Community Committee. I'd like to point out something, and many of you may know or may not know this. There's one national heritage site in Holmdel that's known globally, and that's the horn antenna. And I don't know if you've been to the horn antenna recently. I tried. I couldn't get there. There were trees blocking the horn antenna. The trees had fallen down. And when I got up there, it was a nice place to be. But getting up there is a hazardous thing to do. And the land surrounding that is owned by a private developer. So just like Kathy, Committeewoman Weber mentioned, that we have an African-American heritage site. We've got also have a national, globally known heritage site in Holmdel. And we need to take care of these to make sure that our residents and our children know about this, because this is important. The horn antenna, if you don't know, was used by Dr. Wilson to make this discovery on the cosmic Big Bang Theory, or prove the Big Bang Theory. And kids learn about this in school, but they don't know that the antenna is in their very town. So it'd be a good thing to do to focus on fixing at least the roads leading up to the antenna. So that's number one. Number two, Sharon, I know that people have been asking about this. We are embarking on this stormwater management study, but whatever happened to the Rutgers study, because that's going to be utilized in some fashion. Is there a way to needle the Rutgers team to come up with a report as soon as possible? So that would be one. The second thing is, I know we identified a list of properties to see if we could commit one or some to Rossi. So that would be an interesting, that would be important for us to know. The third one would be to also identify a list of properties, make it public on things that we are not, I don't know, we can make things public, but at least identify properties to purchase that are in the hands of developers, so we can maintain our bucolic nature of Holmdel. So those are my items. Thank you.
Thanks. And I will say we do keep needling Rutgers, and when and if we ever get that study back, it will be handed over to the consultants for the stormwater management study to incorporate, so that there's no duplicate work. Great. Mayor?
Yeah, so real quick, so everything we covered is important today, from emergency services, the rec, DPW, community development. They're all equally important. You know, we've been focusing a lot on emergency services for obvious reasons. For public safety is important. Open space, stormwater management are two key priorities that I continue to have for 2022. So I think they're gonna, as the deputy mayor just said, still be the top and forefront of what we need to do, because these have a significant impact on the future, current and future of our town. That's it, Sharon.
Fantastic, thank you. So like I said, we are taking notes on all of those, and we'll work on them as the year goes through. I'm going to jump back in. Oops, I'm sharing the wrong screen. So next I wanted to just go over some of the major capital requests. I'm not going to get down into the nitty gritty. I have one general, okay, good. Category for some of those smaller items, a couple $1,000s, again, for the interest of time, and it will all be in the budget that we prepare. But I just wanted to outline how I'm going to cover capital. The general fund, these are items that are going to be funded solely through our budget and potentially taxpayers. So I'm going to cover the building improvements that were discussed, the vehicle requests, and then other capital. Then the open space trust fund, that is its own separate account. Our sewer utility, again, own separate account, and then the swim utility. What I'm going to do is go through everything with you guys, and then we can open it up for further discussion, if that works. So building improvements, what we've talked about were the firehouse, the first aid building renovations, the police locker room renovations, the public works building that they need for their equipment. If you guys recall, one of the buildings was demolished to build the firehouse. and so that left equipment that's sitting outside in the elements. And then something that hasn't been discussed today, again, we didn't talk about IT, but it has been discussed and partially funded little bit by bit for at least 5 years, is a camera and card access system. In today's world of public safety and ensuring that we know what's happening in our buildings and facilities, cameras and card access is something that our public works and police and all of our agencies have really been looking into for years. And again, as I've said, we've funded it bit by bit, but never wholly. There's a lot of things to consider when you look at these building improvements. Years ago, the Township Committee funded renovations to Town Hall. All of those renovations didn't happen. You heard earlier, we are currently doing the renovations to the bathrooms. But one of the things that was originally included was renovations to the court. We now have a shared services with court. That's not necessarily needed anymore. However, when some of these projects, and again, you've heard, we've kind of been funding the first aid building, the locker rooms bit by bit. However, the cost of construction is rising. It's rising significantly. Also, as it relates to the firehouse, if you recall, when it was bid, it was overbid. It was over what we had anticipated in budget, but the Township Committee decided to move forward, and we kind of robbed Peter to pay Paul, for lack of a better way of saying it, to cover some of those costs. We have had some change orders, largely because increasing prices of everything these days. And then some other unanticipated expenses as it relates to the firehouse that weren't part of the general contractor, some electricity expenses and things like that. So for all of these building improvements, all of them collectively, we have about $1.1 million available to us in order to get them substantially complete. And I say substantially complete because, for instance, the first aid building, it doesn't include necessarily like furniture or commercial grade kitchen equipment. But in order to get them substantially complete, we're gonna need about $3.6 million. So it's about $2.5 million more we would need to get those projects complete. The vehicle request that you heard earlier today, the police vehicles, they want to replace the cameras in the cars. It's the body worn cameras of the cars, and the SUVs, which we replace annually. We try to keep up with that to do 2 vehicles. And the purpose is police vehicles get a lot of wear and tear. Even though they might not have tons of mileage, they're running constantly and all the time. And so keeping up and doing purchases on a regular basis helps avoid having to purchase an entirely new fleet. Public works vehicles that Victor mentioned earlier, I wanted everyone to see the years of what those the bigger vehicles replacement would be. So we're looking at 2006, 7, and 9. Again, these are vehicles that get beat up a lot. They stay within town, so the miles aren't big, but they get a lot of beat up. The fire command truck was discussed, and then what wasn't discussed because we missed IT, the IT department has asked for access to a vehicle, and it might be a really good idea for the township to consider getting a vehicle for not only IT, but other general administrative issues. But IT in particular, they're running around the township on a regular basis. All of those vehicles are about $860,000. Other capital considerations that may or may not have been discussed, the pedestrian and bike pathway, we have a grant for that, but it's a matching grant. We need to fund that. Now, I put an asterisk by this because it is also part of open space. So in theory, it could also be funded through the Open Space Trust Fund, which was recently increased by the voters of Holmdel. There are various IT upgrades that have been requested, about $100,000 worth of that. We discussed the Scba devices for the fire department, about $390,000. We do have some archiving needs, our annual road program, and then there's about $650,000 of other miscellaneous capital purchases, and Captain Alaco covered some of those in the police department, but they kind of hit all of the departments, radios for the emergency services, OEM, that kind of thing. Again, I'm running through these quickly because of the interest of time, and you'll see all of these broken down line by line in the budget presentation that you get in the week or so. Open space, as it relates to open space, I just wanted to remind everybody of what some ideas on what the Open Space Trust Fund can be used for. We always talk about acquisitions, and we are desperately trying to buy anything that is available out there. And again, I wanted to mention the pedestrian and the bikeway. That would be an appropriate use. And then it has come, I've received requests from people outside of the township staff about some various historic preservation opportunities, theaters, the Harding House, so historic preservation is an eligible use. Then we have the sewer utility, and as everyone knows, the sewer utility is only in the northern part of town. And I always say it's not fun to maintain your sewer utility. It doesn't, you can't see it. It's all underground, right? So it doesn't come to everyone's mind until it breaks. And as you all know, we're in the process of doing significant repairs on Mount Drive, $675,000 worth of repairs because it broke. And so we need to make sure that's fully funded, but also make sure that we maintain the system so that we don't have to do those emergency repairs, which are significantly more money. So we've gotten estimates from our engineer on the delivery system. They've broken it into 4 phases. I have phase 3 and 4 together because they really should be done together. So it kind of could be just one phase. But that's about $2.8 million worth of repairs that are needed. And then the pump stations themselves, these aren't the pipes that deliver it, but the stations, making sure that those are up. We have about $650,000 in recommended repairs for that. It could be broken up if needed. And then the swim club, which we had quite an extensive presentation on Tuesday, so I'm not going to go into all of the details, but these items that I have listed here are some of the more immediate needs of the swim club, and I have a couple that have stars and are in bold. Internally, we believe these are things that really need to be addressed as quickly as possible and before the next swim season starts, which it's warming up a little bit today. It's going to be here before we know it. It does appear, so the repairs the estimates for those repairs were about 1.3 million for the immediate, about a little under 500 for the recommended, and almost 2 million for some of the optimal repairs that were discussed. Again, we talked about this extensively last meeting, so I didn't want to go through it, especially because of timing issues. And then I just wanted to remind everybody of the analysis that our financial advisors provided with us last June. If you recall, we brought them to a meeting to go out and look at what capital, different scenarios, depending on how much we bonded for capital annually. This year might be a good year to make a big investment so that we can get some of these major projects taken care of and then move on and not need them as much for future years. Again, these numbers I just pulled out from the financial advisors estimate in June of 2021. We had since went to permanent financing, so these aren't exact numbers. I just wanted to give everybody a reminder on that. So with that, I'm going to stop my screen share. Again, I apologize for the quickness, but I want to respect everybody's time and open it up to the TC for discussion on some of these capital issues and thoughts on what we should make a priority as we budget.
Ron, I have a quick question for you. The capital schedule that you shared with us, I know is going to be changed based on what we converted recently. But I also think it'd be good to have them look at the impact of 4 increases in the federal rates to see how it would impact us as well in terms of our ability to bond and the interest we have to pay.
We can certainly ask them to take a look at that.
So a couple things, because I know we're short on time. I think the following up on the presentation we had on the swim club on Tuesday, I think that's paramount. I know there was Township is a township asset. That's one. I think two, in prior years, as committee women were brought up at the meeting, money was taken from the swim club to balance the budget for the township. And I think that the township now needs to give the money back so the swim club can use those funds to reinvest in itself, and where they should have been to begin with. They should have been there today if they weren't used previously. So from the information, I think Bill was able to confirm, or maybe you can look into it. I think you're talking somewhere around $750,000 was taken from the swim club. If you factor in interest, it may have be able to accrue over the years. You're probably talking around, let's round up to $1 million, in addition to other investments that the town needs to put in there. So I think one of the most significant investments probably will come to the swim club. And I'm guessing from what we heard initially from those guys, we could be north of $2 million to get this thing right and do some enhancements that were potentially recommended to make it more of an attractive property. Because I think in addition to the swim itself, we have the ability to put the tennis courts back in there and basketball courts up there with some LED lighting. So make it more of a community involvement center, because we want to get the community involved. This is our land, it's our asset. And I think investing in there, as we've seen in other parks, does generate traffic from our residents. So that's kind of one of the focuses I think are important right now. I think also, which wasn't mentioned, that well, you mentioned the dog park, but I think that giving the police maybe some purview over what goes on over there. Maybe we could put in some security cameras, et cetera, because that park is used frequently and significantly. And it's getting the activity we wanted, which is great. Getting the traffic we wanted, but we can't have an officer there all the time. There are issues that pop up periodically that I was made aware of. So I think maybe security cameras, that one, we can monitor what's going on and have a record of things that go on in case someone's not there as well, need to be looked at and added into the budget. I didn't see that as a line item. Maybe it is. If it is, I missed it. If it isn't, I'd like to include that.
Second that as well. There's a lot of unwanted activity going on in the park, so we want to limit them, especially within Bayonet Farm.
Given that that's a security issue, I think it might be better discussed in executive session.
So make sure you have the money for it, that's all.
So my capital priorities would be first and foremost to continue the road repaving program. We're finally making some progress after years of neglect, and I think that's critical and very important to residents. Secondly would be the swim club, and also I would say restoring our tennis program. So we used to have, when we had the tennis center up there, we had a very, very robust tennis program, which Recreation is not able to run because we don't have sufficient courts. So I would love to see us reinstate that program for the community. And those lessons were available to all ages, from children to adults. So I think that would be great. And then my third thing relative to open space, absolutely, we all love to, acquire additional open space should that opportunity present itself, but recognizing that we have to have a willing buyer to do so, and that may be difficult to come by. We also need to maintain the open space we already have. So I would certainly hope that we will match the funds for the grant we've already received to start the bike path. I haven't met anyone yet who was not in supportive of that project, which is very unusual in this town because you never get everybody to agree on anything. And in addition, we have some trails that need some repair, and a lot of that's been left to volunteers, but some of those trails in the Reminiscent and off of Bayonet need some professional DPW or professional help in terms of repairing to maintain them. And more and more people are out hiking and walking, and I'd like to see us make sure we can do that. That may not even need to be in the capital budget, that may be able to be in our regular park maintenance budget. And then the last thing I would just like to suggest, and this may come more under security, but from listening to the needs from the police department, the ongoing and increased needs for documentation and paperwork and all of that, as well as the needs for our park system, I'd like to see us, if we can, cost effectively use SLEOs in some of those capacities of things that are not necessarily, frontline police work required, but need the skills and knowledge to be able to address them. So I'm very interested in any concept on a park ranger program, but additionally into how we might be able to use, SLEO type staff to help offload the work of our officers. That's it for me.
Hi, I actually agree with some of what Kathy said. Believe that, Kathy? Again, the repaving of the roads needs to be a priority. The swim club, I think we need to find or agree to what is going to be the right number to invest this year, to make the certain improvements that need to get done. And then if there's some additional things that can get done, I think that's important to do. And one other thing that I would like to see, Sharon, if you could find a small line item, and hopefully the rest of the other TC members would agree with me. I don't know if anyone responded. I did respond to a woman that sent us an email from the Holmdel Theater Club, and Kathy, I replied only her, so you'll be very proud of me there. But I don't know who else replied. But if we could find some money to give to them, I think that's very important. I'm not involved in that in any way or any shape or form, but it is a very important part of our community. They're having a lot of issues with water leaks and repairs there. They're struggling. I think if we could find some money, Sharon, I think it would be real beneficial. I think we're, again, reinvesting into our community. It's a part of our community. I'd like to see if there's a nominal fee that we can give them that could help them with some of their repairs for this year. And that's really all I have right now.
DJ, I responded as well directly. I guess I did it right for the first time, but I'm with you 100% on that. And for me, I like to wield Occam's razor rather liberally. To me, it's infrastructure and first responders. It's clear to me after the presentation that there are some obvious needs for our first responders across all three disciplines, from the technology front to the continued improvement of the locker rooms and the facilities for our first aid squad. And I consider, frankly, the swim club part of the infrastructure improvement, right? So I think of it as, it's a Holmdel property. I think, and I'm in agreement with DJ and Kathy on that, and that we have to at least, let's get those needs pinned down and understand the full cost of the needs, and then we can see what these sort of incremental asks are and what they look like. So, like I said, I like to keep it simple.
Yeah, and real quick for the record, I didn't say it, but I'm conceding. So everything that was requested by the department heads. Instead of going, I'm not going to say yes to all this stuff, but yes, it's a concession across the board on what their needs are with respect to our administrator, fine tuning that and accepting for what they were requesting. I am in full support of all of that. So what I was mentioning was in addition to that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Above and beyond. Sharon, maybe you can just share with everyone the process that we've used, because I think in the past, you would now take all of this and bring it back to us with kind of an A list and a B list and the actual dollar figures. Because while I would love to do everything that everyone wanted, something tells me that we won't quite be able to afford to do everything. So then we're going to have to make those hard choices. So, maybe you can elaborate on that, but that's what I'm looking to you for.
Of course. So just as a reminder, and for those that haven't gone through this process with me before, what we'll do now, Bill and I will sit down. For everyone to know, we've sat down with the department heads and everybody you saw, plus more people even that you saw today, to go over what their both operational budget requests were and their capital budget requests are. We'll take all of the feedback from this meeting. We will put it into what I call the administrative budget proposal, which we will present to the TC. That will include both the operating and the capital requests. And exactly with what Committeewoman Weber said, we kind of list some recommended projects and some other projects which are very valuable, but maybe could wait a year or so. And we will present that to you. You should have that beginning to mid of next week. And I'll take any feedback individually from members of the Township Committee, and then we'll present it at a meeting. The budget needs to be introduced at a meeting. If you want to move on capital quickly, which I will recommend to this committee, particularly because, as we've heard today, the length of time it takes to get anything. If we order an SUV now, we might not get it for 18 months. And also to what Committeeman Santana said, the rising interest rates. If we want to make these significant capital investments, I would recommend introducing a bond ordinance at the same time that you introduce the budget. And both of those need a second, so they need to be approved by the Township Committee a first time, and then there's publication requirements, and then they need to be approved by the Township Committee a second time. And as it relates to the bond issue, there's a 20-day estoppel period before we can begin any of the work on those. So even if we started today, we've got a couple of months before any of those projects can start. So that's why we are starting today, and we want to get that up and going. These are all really important projects.
And the interest rate right now, I'm being told, is around 0.6%. So time is of the essence. We really need to move so we can grab those interest rates for our projects for this year.
And it's not going to stay that way for long. I mean, they're predicting 4 increases this year. So that's why I would like to find out from our financial advisor, what's the opportune time to get the bond in, and what's the future impact on this?
He told me as sooner the better, my friend.
And just for everyone's benefit, I've been taking notes as well. And I know that, a lot of the items the committee has mentioned are, budgetary. Obviously, that's the main goal here. But I know some of them are brainstorming that may go beyond budget into other areas where we need an ordinance, or, we need to, do something other than budget. So I have some notes here, and I'm certainly glad to work with each individual member and the committee as a whole to help facilitate those over the next few weeks.
Cool. Sharon, anything else you need?
That is all I have for the day.
Well, thank you, and thanks to all your staff. I have to run. I'm supposed to be in another meeting, but once again, incredibly valuable. And I just want to say I appreciate all the work that's being done on all fronts, and look forward to moving forward with the process. So thank you.
Thanks, Sharon, and your team.
I want to thank.
Just a note before we lose the full committee, this is a public meeting, so we do have to have a public hearing. So, Mayor, if there's no objection, we should probably open it up for that.
Sure. Let's open up for any public comment. Wendy, Brian, can you put any people? I think
we have Jerry Buffalino.
Okay. Just like a formal meeting, Jerry, just please state your name and address for the record, and then you can make your questions, comments.
Jerry Buffalino, 20 Barbera Drive. I have a question pertaining to the EMS presentation. And some of you may know the answers to this, I don't. I know that there are some towns, albeit maybe more urban than we are, they're actually able to bill insurance for the calls that they make. Now, Chris didn't mention how many of the 1,300 or so calls they did last year that were actually Holmdel residents, because I know they cover the Garden State Parkway, they cover probably 35, 36, the county roads. But I don't know whether it's a matter of certification that we can't do that, but I know there's significant untapped funds available from that source if we were able to. So my question is, why can't we? Do we already know that? Have we looked at this as a way to raise additional funds for our needs? Or is there some other alternative we can use other than what we're doing?
So it is a potential option, but it would change the structure of the first aid as it sits today. I was actually at a meeting with some of the local mayors recently when they're not as fortunate as we are, where we have members that are really man our operation 24/7, but some have outsourced their daytime 12 hours a day. I think they go 7 to 7 to Hackensack Meridian, who provides their ambulance service. Other towns where the administrator actually worked in the past have went to full paid service as well. So it's a combination. It's certainly something that the first aid squad can certainly we have conversation with them on. But right now, when we had conversation regarding that, they were content with the way they were operating and felt that they could support the town adequately, the way they're staffed and the way they're supported, and that's why we're making the investments in them that we are right now. But good point, and certainly an option that could be pursued in the future if necessitated.
So Greg, by what you're saying because we're volunteer, we can't?
It's a different structure. Sean, you wanted to cover?
There are some various regulations. I see Chris, that the chief has his hand raised, so I'm sure he will explain that better than I will. Why it's not being billed to people.
Hi, if you can you hear me, Sharon?
Yeah, just for the record, just state your name, Chris. Just again, we're in public portion.
Chris Trachetta, 6 Old Manor Road. I'm the representing Holmdel First Aid Squad as chief. So just to kind of give just an update on how our operation is run is we are 100% volunteer based. In order to bill patients, you would have to go through a lot of New Jersey state certifications, which would change the complete environment of providing emergency services. We meet or exceed all of the guidelines. However, it would remove our training funds for our volunteers, which would provide a substantial cost to all of our training. And then just billing insurance companies is not a viable way of doing things, because you would also have to send bills to pretty much every person. And we as volunteers don't feel as if that there's a need for that. We volunteer our time to benefit the Township of Holmdel and provide a service to its residents.
Thank you, Chris. Hopefully
You're
that
welcome.
answers your question, Jerry, as well.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else from the public?
I see no new hands up, Mayor.
None being seen, we'll close public comment. Sean, anything else we need before we adjourn?
Not from my end. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining this morning, now and this afternoon. Appreciate, Sharon, all you and your teams, department heads, all your work. Very informative session. Hopefully the public will learn more about a lot of things we do and how we do it, and how try to weigh everything to get the best return and obviously keep our tax rate flat as we've done for the last several years. Everyone have a great day. Thank you for joining me.